3 days later, in a stone cavern inside Azure Sun Temple's restricted area, Yang Kai slowly opened his eyes in one of the stone rooms. His soul avatar had returned to his physical body, and this moment felt so amazing that he could not help but have the illusion that he was being reborn. After moving his arms and legs a little, he fully adapted. Even though he spent nearly a month in this stone room, Yang Kai's cultivation did not suffer any damage, of course. On the contrary, due to his experiences in the divine ascension world, his soul had grown significantly stronger. He did not hurry to leave and instead checked on his own situation. Looking inside himself, his knowledge sea was calm, but the waters had become much stronger than a month ago. Before entering the divine ascension mirror world, Yang Kai's divine sense was strong enough to compete with a third-order Dao source realm cultivators. After absorbing so many soul sources in the divine ascension mirror world, though, it had grown noticeably. What's more, he also received a fine piece of soul jade. Only that soul jade's power was unable to be manifested in such a short amount of time. He would have to slowly absorb the benefits as his soul-warming lotus fed them to his soul over time. Right now, it was not too much to say that his soul was only slightly weaker than an emperor's. He only had to wait for his physical body's cultivation to catch up, and then he could smoothly make a breakthrough. The ball of light inside the soul-warming lotus with the sealed soul-devouring insects was still peaceful, without any abnormalities. But Yang Kai knew he had to deal with it as soon as possible because this thing in his knowledge sea was a hidden danger that may suddenly explode. There was also a soul-type artifact in his knowledge sea that was dim and dull at this moment. It was the Purple Sun Profound Light Shield gifted to him by Gao Shueting. This soul-type artifact could no longer be used after being wrecked by Ban Qing during their fight. Yang Kai sorted out what he needed to do in his mind. With his plans set, he took out the seal token given to him by Gao Shueting and opened the stone room before walking out. Looking around, the other stone rooms were empty just as he expected. Obviously, during the time when he was with Tianyan, Xiaxia and the others had already been led back by Wen Zishan and should have been brought away to recover. The divine ascension mirror, however, was still erected at the center of the stone cavern, rotating slowly as it emitted a faint light. Yang Kai's brow twitched as he stared at this unique treasure. At this moment, he was able to feel a slight connection between himself and the divine ascension mirror. This type of connection came from the seal inside the soul-warming lotus as it was formed with the power of the mirror soul. "You're out," a voice suddenly sounded in the darkness. Yang Kai was stunned for a moment before he cupped his fists at the source of the sound. "Elder Gao!" Gao Shueting was undoubtedly waiting here for Yang Kai and nodded lightly upon seeing him return safely. There was a slight mishap during this training, and it was this queen failing to take care of you all that almost led you to disaster. As an Emperor Realm Master, her frankly admitting her mistake in front of Yang Kai without the slightest intention of shirking her responsibility touched him greatly. Yang Kai asked, "This is not Elder Gao's fault, but Grandma used trickery. By the way, how is Grandma you now?" Gao Shueting responded, "Temple Master has his own ways of dealing with Grandma, so you don't need to worry." "What about Brother Xia and the others?" Yang Kai asked. "Xiaxia and the others have suffered some damage to their souls, but it is nothing major. They only need to rest and recover for several months." "That's good then." Yang Kai let out a small sigh of relief. Even though he figured that Xiaxia and the others would be fine, and that Grandma you hadn't done anything fatal to them during her search for the soul-warming lotus, he couldn't really put his mind at ease until now. "Now that this matter is over, come with me. The Temple Master wishes to see you." As she said that, Gao Shueting led Yang Kai out, but she did not forget to advise him before leaving. The Divine Ascension Mirror is the greatest secret of the temple. It is already bending the rules to allow an outsider like you to enter it. You must never disclose its existence to the public. "Yes," Yang Kai answered seriously. Gao Shueting was silent on the way and only rushed over towards Myriad Saints Peak with Yang Kai in tow. But Yang Kai noticed that there were several times where she seemed to want to ask something, but she never did so in the end. Yang Kai figured that she probably wanted to ask about Tianyan. The reason when Zishan wanted to see him as soon as he returned was also because of Tianyan. The existence of a great emperor in the divine ascension world was simply too shocking. Even Wen Zishan may not have expected such a thing. After a while, the two of them arrived at Myriad Saints Peak where Gao Shueting stopped outside the temple and said to Yang Kai, "You should go in by yourself. The temple master is right inside." Yang Kai nodded lightly and walked into the main hall. Inside the main hall, Wen Zishan sat alone with his legs crossed and a heavy look on his face. When he saw Yang Kai enter, he couldn't help but brighten up and smile. "Boy, you're finally back." Yang Kai went forward and cupped his fists. "Greeting Temple Master One. Some things happened and delayed my return for a few days. And it's good that you're back safely." When Zishan beckoned Yang Kai over, "Come, have a cup of wine to settle down." As he spoke, he waved his hand, and a chair and wine bottle appeared in front of him. Yang Kai was stunned, but he did not refuse him. He strode forward and took a seat in front of Wen Zishan. "This king has a few things to ask you." Wen Zishan poured himself a cup of wine before pouring one for Yang Kai, not being punctilious at all while he said, "If you think you can answer this king, then speak freely. If it is not possible, then this king will not force you to do so. Just pretend I never asked, all right?" He showed a very friendly attitude. So Yang Kai responded with, "Many thanks for your consideration, Temple Master One." And when Zishan nodded and did not say anything else, as if he was thinking about what to ask first. Yang Kai picked up his cup of wine and took a sip, but after waiting for a while, yet still seeing Wen Zishan hesitate to speak, he couldn't help commenting, "Temple Master One, this wine can't be compared to Monkey God wine." Upon hearing this, Wen Zishan stared at Yang Kai in surprise. "You met with Yi Quan?" Yang Kai nodded and said, "Yes. Senior Yi Quan also told Junior some interesting stories about you back then." "Did that old thing tell you how many jars of Monkey God wine he used to get me drunk?" Wen Zishan said while curling his lip. Yang Kai laughed. "Of course." "Humph." Wen Zishan coldly snorted. "If this king had not acted like I was unable to take alcohol, then how would that old thing be willing to give me so much to drink? Everything is within this king's plans." Yang Kai was stunned, unable to tell just which of these two third-order Emperor Realm Masters living in two different worlds won in that battle of wits. Senior Yi Quan still fondly remembers Temple Master One, and even told Junior that you never showing up again to visit after several hundred years saddened him. He had also prepared a lot of Monkey God wine in anticipation of Temple Master Wen's next visit. "Ha ha ha." When Zishan laughed. "At least he still has some conscience." This king did not return after all these years because this king was worried that the old granny would overthink it and try to lock this king up inside. The divine ascension mirror is not something that this king can just enter as he pleases. However, this king really wonders whether Yi Quan has enough Monkey God wine for him to drink to his fill. After he said that, he suddenly turned solemn and quickly said, "This king heard little Shueting say that a great emperor suddenly appeared outside the divine movement country and took you away. Is that true?" "Yes." Yang Kai nodded with a straight face. "Are you sure that the other party was a great emperor?" When Zishan looked extremely serious. Yang Kai pondered for a moment and said, "Though Junior's cultivation is low and is unable to judge the other party's true realm and strength, please excuse this Junior for saying something that may offend Temple Master One." "Go ahead. That person is much, much stronger than you, Temple Master One." When Zishan's expression turned serious. Temple Master One has entered the Divine Ascension Mirror and also knows Senior Yi Quan. So naturally Temple Master One should also know Zhou Dian. Grandma Yu's soul avatar had also reached the Third Order Emperor realm. But in comparison, that senior greatly surpassed any and all of you. Then there is no doubt he is a great emperor. When Zishan took a deep breath and said with a look of disbelief, "It's unbelievable that a great emperor could be born in that place. If word spreads, it would probably shake the entire star boundary. By the way, what is the name of that senior?" "He calls himself Tianyan." Yang Kai replied, "Great Emperor Tianyan." When Zishan murmured before turning back to Yang Kai and asking, "So, what did Sir Tianyan take you away for?" In this world, all great emperors were recognized and respected by the world, so even though when Zishan had never met Tianyan, he still addressed him as Sir. This was not only respect for a master's strength, but also for that master's achievements in the heavenly way and martial Tao. For the soul-devouring insects, Yang Kai answered, feeling he had no need to hide this matter. Of course, it was only limited to Wen Zishan. Despite this temple master Wen's unusual character and usual lack of decorum, Yang Kai could sense that he was a very reliable and just senior when it mattered. Otherwise, he would not have taken the initiative to reveal information about the Divine Ascension Mirror to Yang Kai and arranged for him to enter it for training. As a reward for the star seals, Wen Zishan even offered Yang Kai the chance to enter the sect treasury to pick out 3 treasures. Just from Wen Zishan revealing the sect's top secret, the Divine Ascension Mirror, Yang Kai felt that there was no need to hide this from him. Soul-devouring insects? Wen Zishan raised his brows, but soon seemed to think of something and said, I heard from Yiquan in the past that a battle called the Holy War once broke out in that world, and the source of that conflict was a swarm of demon insects. Could it be? And it was none other than a swarm of soul-devouring insects. Senior Tianyan asked Junior to bring the group of soul-devouring insects out of that world, which resulted in the slight delay in my return. Soul-devouring insects are the nemesis of all souls. Even though I have no idea what sort of amazing methods you have used to restrain them, or what methods Sir Tianyan used to help you, even if you have a precious treasure like the soul-warming lotus, you cannot act carelessly. When Zishan warned him with a grave expression. Hearing him say this, Yang Kai instantly understood that he must have had a detailed talk with Grandma Yu and learned from her about the existence of the soul-warming lotus. Junior has his own plans for the soul-devouring insects. Yang Kai told him with a serious face. All right then. When Zishan looked at him and said, You don't look like the type of person who would play around with his life. If there is anything you need, then just tell this king. Many thanks, Temple Master One. For the next 4 hours, when Zishan asked him in detail about the many things that happened in the Divine Ascension Mirror world. Yang Kai told him everything without hiding too much either. After 4 hours, Yang Kai stepped out of the main hall. Gao Xueting seemed to have been waiting outside the whole time. When she saw him walk out, she glanced at him and said, The temple master informed me that you require a secret room? Yang Kai nodded and said, Yes. Before coming out from Wen Zishan's place, Yang Kai did in fact request this from him. That is because he wanted to refine the insect enslavement bracelet, so he needed a safe cultivation room to do so. When Zishan naturally agreed to such a trifling request and told him to just ask Gao Xueting about it. Come with me. As she said that, Gao Xueting turned around and flew out. Yang Kai followed closely behind her. After an hour, Gao Xueting landed on top of a mountain peak that was neither too tall nor too short. It wasn't a very imposing mountain in the whole Azure Sun mountain range and looked rather ordinary. But this peak was obviously enriched by some spirit arrays, so the world energy aura was much denser here than in other places. There were no traces of any buildings on this peak, but there was a large forest of purple bamboo, adding a touch of exuberant color that made the place look extremely elegant. Gao Xueting led Yang Kai directly to a secluded cave mansion halfway up the mountain and opened the seal there with both hands, saying, This purple bamboo peak is where I live. I usually stay in the cave mansion at the top, so if there's anything you need, just call me and I'll be able to rush over in just a moment. Hearing her say so, Yang Kai felt a little flattered and cupped his fists. Many thanks, Elder Gao. He had originally just wanted to ask Wen Zishan for a quiet, safe and secluded place, but he didn't expect Gao Xueting to bring him to the purple bamboo peak where she lived and even arrange for him to live in the cave mansion next door. This was obviously to take care of him. Gao Xueting nodded lightly and tossed Yang Kai an access token, saying, Head in by yourself. Yang Kai accepted the token and scanned it over with his divine sense before thanking Gao Xueting once more and heading into the cave mansion. Looking around, this cave mansion was neither big nor small and had several secret rooms available. Even though no one had lived in it for a long time, it looked neat as if it were new. Obviously, this cave mansion must be where Gao Xueting used to live, but he had no idea why she moved. Naturally, Yang Kai felt at ease with a master like Gao Xueting nearby, so he didn't have to worry about anything while refining the insect enslavement bracelet. Time was tight and Yang Kai did not delay. First, he familiarized himself with the token before opening all the barriers around the cave mansion. Only then did he sit cross-legged in a secret room and adjust his mind. Refining an Emperor artifact was not a simple task. Emperor artifacts were different from ordinary artifacts. Each Emperor artifact contained Emperor intent and Emperor aura. If one's cultivation was not high enough during the refinement process, then there was a chance that they may suffer a backlash from the Emperor artifact. So, when a cultivator without high enough cultivation tried to refine an Emperor artifact, they needed to adjust their condition to the best they could. After 3 days, Yang Kai felt that his spiritual essence had reached its peak state, so he heaved a small breath and took out the insect enslavement bracelet which had been left in a corner of the sealed world bead and forgotten for a long time. This thing had worked wonders during 2 dangerous incidents. Once, when he and Shui encountered a group of strange butterflies in the severed world, the insect enslavement bracelet managed to suppress them and allow them to escape. The other time was when Yang Kai encountered the monster insect queen under the ice cliff in Blue Feather Sect. During that time, if not for the insect enslavement bracelet stunning the monster insect queen, Yang Kai would not have been able to subdue it. Both times, Yang Kai's life was saved thanks to the insect enslavement bracelet. Right now, even though his cultivation was only at the first order Dao Source realm, his soul had taken a half step into the Emperor realm, so it shouldn't be a big problem for him to refine this insect enslavement bracelet. With that in mind, he placed the Emperor artifact that looked similar to a palm-sized bracelet on his hand and covered it with his free palm before he began circulating his spiritual energy and source chi at the same time, pouring them into the bracelet. There was no response. The insect enslavement bracelet was just like a block of wood that did not accept any of his power. But Yang Kai was in no hurry. This was only to be expected. He slowly released his power, constantly pouring it into the insect enslavement bracelet, trying to get the Emperor artifact to open up a gap so that he could carve his soul imprint into it. At a dark underground chamber several dozen kilometers away from Myriad Saints Peak, Grandma Yu was currently acting like a madwoman inside. Even though an invisible power was imprisoning her cultivation, she was still yelling curses incessantly. "When Zishan, you bastard, you'll die a dog's death. I won't forgive you even if you turn into an evil spirit." She seemed to have been cursing for a while as her voice had become extremely hoarse, making her already unpleasant sound even more terrible. A person's voice suddenly sounded in this dark space. "Grandma, you've been cursing the same thing over and over again. No creativity at all. I'm already sick of hearing the same insult again and again." Grandma Yu's cursing voice suddenly stopped for a moment, but soon, she roared hysterically, "When Zishan! Ha!" Temple Master Wen let out a laugh and snapped his fingers. Suddenly a light appeared in the space, illuminating the darkness with its dim glow. Grandma Yu's hair was a mess and she looked like an evil ghost. It was a terrible sight, but it was as if Wen Zishan didn't see that at all as he just stared at Grandma Yu lightly and said, "Grandma, why don't you take a rest if you're tired from cursing? I'll bring you something to eat and drink to moisten your throat with." While speaking, he actually took out a plate of delicious and fragrant spirit fruits from his space ring. With a slight flick from his wrist, the plate of spirit fruit flew right in front of Grandma Yu. The latter was glaring fiercely at him, her eyes bloodshot and filled with endless hatred. Perhaps she really needed to moisten her throat though. So after a moment of silence, Grandma Yu reached out to the spirit fruit and began eating it in big bites. But her poisonous gaze never left Wen Zishan for a moment during the process. From her loud chewing and actions, it almost seemed as if what she was eating was not spirit fruit, but rather Wen Zishan's heart. In just a quarter of an hour, the plate of spirit fruit had been cleaned off by Grandma Yu. "You actually didn't poison the fruit, you little bastard?" Grandma Yu wiped the corners of her mouth and said to Wen Zishan with a mocking look on her face. Temple Master Wen looked hurt and replied, "Grandma Yu, we've known each other for hundreds of years. Do you still have to judge me with such malice?" "Humph. It is because we have known each other for hundreds of years that I can see through your heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys," Grandma Yu said coldly. When Zishan laughed bitterly, "It seems that you still harbor a lot of ill feelings for me, Grandma." Ill feelings? Grandma, you laughed coldly. That is the greatest understatement I have ever heard. You think it's just ill feelings between you and me? I would want nothing more than to drink your blood, eat your flesh, and gnaw on your bones. I can see that. When Zishan looked helpless, no need to put it so bluntly. Grandma, you suddenly changed the topic and sneered. How is that young boy doing right now? When Zishan looked at her in amazement and said, Grandma, you're in a difficult position to protect yourself right now, yet you still have the effort to spare to care about someone else? I didn't know you had such a caring heart. Of course. Grandma, you raised her voice. I'm sure you've already killed that boy, have you not? Why would I kill him? When Zishan sneered. For the soul-warming lotus, of course. Grandma, you said, if you could obtain the soul-warming lotus? So what if I obtain the soul-warming lotus? This time, when Zishan interrupted her before she could finish. I am already a third-order emperor. Above that, there is only the great emperor realm. Do you think you can rely on the soul-warming lotus alone to achieve that realm? Or do you think I should take his soul-warming lotus and do the same thing you plan to do? Grandma, you looked coldly at Wen Zishan and said, Seems you've already talked to young boy and found out what I need the soul-warming lotus for. When Zishan nodded and said bluntly, I hate to admit it, but I have to say you had come up with an excellent idea, Grandma. The soul-warming lotus is a precious treasure, and is indeed capable of carrying the divine Ascension mirror's mirror soul. If you use it as a foundation, it may really be possible to refine that world. Humph! But Grandma, when Zishan's expression suddenly became serious and he said, Have you ever wondered what would happen if the mirror soul does not respond to you once you obtain the soul-warming lotus? How would you refine it then? Why would the mirror soul not respond to me? Grandma, you screamed. I have been guarding the divine Ascension mirror for 2,000 years. I understand it more than any of you do. As long as I can get my hands on the soul-warming lotus, then I have full confidence that I can fuse the mirror soul into it. Are you sure? When Zishan gazed at her meaningfully, are you sure it's going to be that simple? He paused for a moment and his tone became sharp. Or are you just deceiving yourself? Grandma? Isn't this just part of your obsession to defeat me? Grandma, you suddenly froze. When Zishan continued, Grandma, do you know why your cultivation has stagnated at the first-order emperor realm for 2,000 years? What have you done in the past 2,000 years? And what have you seen? Grandma Yu's face gradually changed. Her bloodshot eyes that were filled with hatred gradually became shaken, hollow, then confused. When Zishan's words seemed to have touched something buried deep inside her heart. You know very well that you may not be able to subdue the mirror soul even if you obtained the soul-warming lotus. When Zishan sighed faintly. Bullshit. Grandma, you cursed. Then let me ask you, if it was so easy to subdue the mirror soul, then why didn't that great emperor who took young boy away do it? He should have that power. When he said this, Grandma, you became speechless. Let go of your obsession, Grandma. If you don't let go, then you'll be stuck where you are for the rest of your life. When Zishan advised her earnestly. Cultivators like us, we can only forge ahead when our goals are clear. Grandma, you are still immersed in the defeat of a past battle and blinded by hatred. How can you rise up to a higher martial Tao if you are so intent on wanting me dead? Are you lecturing me, brat? Grandma, you glared at Wen Zishan. The latter shrugged his shoulders and said, I'm just speaking the truth, and it's not like you don't understand it either, Grandma. You just don't want to admit it. He sighed and went on, Young boy and little Xueting may think that this face of yours is your true appearance, and that the beautiful woman you appeared as inside the divine Ascension mirror is just an illusion you created. But only you and I know that your appearance inside the divine Ascension mirror is your true appearance. The current you is just a twisted form brought about by your hatred. Grandma is also a woman, so why make things so difficult for yourself? What are you saying all this for? Grandma Yu's tone of voice had calmed down a lot for some reason. I just want to say, Grandma, that your aptitude may not be lower than mine. If you can overcome your heart demon, then you may be able to become a great emperor one day. At these words, Grandma Yu shuddered and looked sharply at Wen Zishan, growling, Are you speaking from your heart? When Zishan smiled and said, "To be honest, I'm not the one who said this." "Then who said it?" "Just a casual and carefree old man." When Zishan seemed extremely reluctant to mention that person's name. Even though he did not say the person's name, Grandma Yu's eyes were brightly lit as if she understood something. "I can't hold up Azure Sun Temple alone, Grandma. Would you be willing to help me?" When Zishan looked earnestly at Grandma Yu and asked. Grandma Yu stared at him for a moment and suddenly burst out laughing, sneering as she did. "This old lady killed so many of your elite disciples already. Do you not hold any grudges towards this old lady at all? The heavenly way is constant, but destiny is impermanent. If they could not cross that hurdle, then that means their cultivation was not enough." Grandma Yu's face changed and she went silent. After a while, she suddenly bellowed, "Scram! Get out of here." When Zishan smiled and said, "Think about it, Grandma." With these words, he gradually disappeared from the space as if he had never appeared there before. Grandma Yu was left alone with a cold and fluctuating expression. Since Yang Kai arrived at the cave mansion in Gao Shueting's Purple Bamboo Peak, a month had passed. During this time, he had remained indoors, refining the insect enslavement bracelet. In the beginning, the insect enslavement bracelet was unresponsive, but Yang Kai was patient and kept using his power to attack the insect enslavement bracelet's barrier. And as time passed, the Emperor artifact gradually changed. It slowly began to accept Yang Kai's spiritual energy and source qi. The refinement process was like reeling silk from cocoons. Yang Kai put in a lot of hard work, but only when all the obstructing forces were eliminated would Yang Kai have a chance to refine the insect enslavement bracelet and engrave his own soul imprint inside. On this day, Yang Kai continued as usual. At a certain moment, a strange buzzing sound came, followed by a slight burst of air in the room. At the same time, Yang Kai felt heat from his hands, as if the insect enslavement bracelet was burning. Yang Kai was not shocked when he felt this, but happy. He knew that this was a sign that his refining had successfully broken the protective barrier. Immediately, he spared no effort to circulate his energy, pouring it madly into the insect enslavement bracelet. The burning sensation on his hands grew clearer and clearer as the insect enslavement bracelet seemed to have come to life again, constantly bouncing around in Yang Kai's grasp, wanting to escape from his control. But Yang Kai was not about to let it achieve this, grabbing hold of it for dear life. Slowly, the burning sensation changed, and it now felt like Yang Kai's palm was being gnawed on by a million ants. The tingling sensation spread from his palm down into each part of his body before reaching deep into his soul, making him feel extremely uncomfortable. The tingling gradually turned into pain, not only on his body but his soul as well, like it was being sheared by thousands of dull knives. Yang Kai could not help but hiss in agony. Gritting his teeth, he endured the unimaginable torment as he pushed his spiritual energy and source qi even more ferociously. After 2 days of this, Yang Kai's body suddenly felt lighter, and all the abnormal sensations disappeared in a flash. At the same time, a light suddenly burst forth from the insect enslavement bracelet. Tiny flickering runes appeared on the small bracelet's surface like fireflies, lighting up the entire room in a beautiful display. The runes were extremely complicated and mysterious, seemingly having a life of their own, constantly evolving and changing. The ordinary-looking insect enslavement bracelet was also releasing an obvious Emperor aura and Emperor intent now. Yang Kai was not the least bit pleased with this situation, however, and instead, his face turned grave. A short while later, the complicated runes converged into the insect enslavement bracelet and Yang Kai could hear a crack, as if something had broken. Then, his spiritual energy and source qi drove straight in, pouring into the insect enslavement bracelet without obstruction. That sound from his mind was undoubtedly the sound of him breaking through the final barrier of the insect enslavement bracelet. This also meant that the refinement process was mostly complete. However, since the insect enslavement bracelet was not a new artifact and had a previous owner, the biggest test began now. As he poured his spiritual energy in, Yang Kai soon sensed a pure force from inside the insect enslavement bracelet fighting back against him. This force was not powerful per se, but it was extremely pure and intense. This was the sole imprint left inside the insect enslavement bracelet by the insect emperor. Only when this imprint was completely erased would Yang Kai be able to leave his own imprint. The true cultivation of the insect emperor was at least third-order emperor realm, but unfortunately, he was defeated and killed during his fight with Yang Yen and had no choice but to preserve his soul through some special method, then rely on seizing another's body to be reborn. As for his past glory and cultivation, almost all of it had been lost. After some 10,000 years, the soul imprint in the insect enslavement bracelet had long weakened beyond recognition. If not for this, Yang Kai would never have had the chance to refine the insect enslavement bracelet, that is, unless when Zishan helped him remove this imprint. But now, despite its purity, this imprint was only barely as strong as a first-order emperor's, which was basically the same strength as Yang Kai's soul. This imprint was fighting him head-on, wanting to stop Yang Kai's next move. But Yang Kai would not back down. He was undaunted and mobilized his spiritual energy to meet it directly. Honk! A noise erupted as Yang Kai's body swayed slightly, and he felt a little dizzy. This was a direct clash of souls, one where only strength and endurance mattered. During this clash, neither Yang Kai nor the original imprint had the upper hand. They were on par with each other. After taking a moment to catch his breath, Yang Kai mobilized his spiritual energy once more and crashed into the insect enslavement bracelet. With another bang, Yang Kai's face turned slightly pale as blood spilled from his nose and mouth. However, during this collision, Yang Kai's spiritual energy clearly gained the upper hand while the insect emperor's imprint had been weakened considerably. Yang Kai did not stop there, however, mobilizing his spiritual energy for a third assault. There was a flash of light from the insect enslavement bracelet, as if something had been broken and opened up. Yang Kai's spiritual energy passed into it now without any obstruction. At this point, the insect emperor's imprint had been completely destroyed. Yang Kai poured his spiritual energy into it, enduring the discomfort in his head to quickly engrave his own soul imprint into the insect enslavement bracelet. Only after he was done did he grin and collapse to the ground, not even wanting to move another inch. Right now, the insect enslavement bracelet was an emperor artifact under his possession. Only the uses of the insect enslavement bracelet were still something that he had to test and develop later. This silent fight drained a lot of Yang Kai's mental and physical strength. He also had to give credit to his soul-warming lotus, since he would never have dared to use such a violent and direct method to erase the insect emperor's imprint without it. But with the soul-warming lotus's nourishment and protection, Yang Kai was not worried about having any fundamental damage done to his soul. He had the capital to use such brute force methods in this regard. After resting for half a day, Yang Kai sat up again, feeling much better than before, and began taking a closer look at this insect enslavement bracelet in front of him. After being refined, the insect enslavement bracelet did not change, other than the fact that it could be put away and taken out of his body at will now. Yang Kai's divine sense surged and poured into the insect enslavement bracelet, trying to find out what wonders lay inside this artifact and how he could use it to restrain the soul-devouring insects. But something unexpected occurred. As soon as he poured his divine sense into the insect enslavement bracelet, Yang Kai actually discovered that there was a strange space inside the bracelet. This space was unlike the sealed world bead's internal space, which was not freely accessible. Instead, it was similar to the spaces inside space rings, but with a few subtle differences. Yang Kai could feel a strange energy surging inside the space that was neither beneficial nor harmful to the soul. He had no idea what it was for. Yang Kai's eyes were soon drawn to the differently sized and shaped jars inside the space. Under his curiosity, Yang Kai swept his divine sense over them to inspect them. But soon he paled and he forcefully withdrew his divine sense from these jars, because he perceived that many of these jars were full. Only a few were empty. As for what things were inside there, he had no idea. He could only hear some writhing and buzzing noises from inside, though some were silent. But each of the things contained in these jars gave off a dangerous feeling to Yang Kai. Even though he was now the owner of the insect enslavement bracelet, he did not dare to open the jars casually to find out what lay inside. Amidst his uncertainty, He discovered that words had suddenly appeared on the surface of those jars, and he quickly adjusted his eyes to see them. Blood aphids, two-legged silkworm, steel ants, silver-striped six-horned spider, tyrant bee. Names of exotic insects were written on each of the jars, practically all of which Xianxia had never heard of, save for a few. But the few he heard of were all terrifying creatures that caused cultivators to shiver in fear at their mention. Xianxia was shaken and vaguely had a bold guess. At that moment, a flash of light suddenly appeared in the insect enslavement bracelet space. In that flash of light, something that looked like an ancient book slowly emerged in Xianxia's divine sense. Curious, he investigated it with his divine sense. There he saw on the cover of the ancient book the characters for Exotic Insect Record. A divine sense book. Xianxia exclaimed in his mind. There were some extremely special secret arts and secret techniques in this world that did not exist in physical form, but instead existed in ways that could not be observed by the naked eye. They were recorded in hidden places. Recording information this way could prevent some precious secrets from being easily accessed, so it was a common tactic used by many masters in the past. This divine sense book was one of them. This divine sense book inside of the insect enslavement bracelet was probably written by the insect emperor, because Xianxia was able to detect his aura from the exotic insect record. Even though it was so many years ago, Xianxia could still remember this familiar aura. Xianxia moved his divine sense once more and opened the exotic insect record, reading it carefully. This exotic insect record was in fact written by the insect emperor, because a preface written by the insect emperor in first person was written on the first page of this book. Xianxia was not so interested in this and just skimmed through it before flipping to the next page. Exotic insect list. Xianxia saw the 3 large words in an instant, which made it so he could not help but look carefully at it. This exotic insect list was divided by the insect emperor into 2 parts. Any exotic insects that could enter this list were extremely rare and difficult to deal with. There were 36 in the heaven list and 72 from the earth list, making up a total of 108 species of exotic insects, each with a detailed description and ranking. Very soon, Xianxia found the descriptions of the exotic ancient insects inside the jars. Blood aphids, earth list number 13, moves towards the smell of blood. Weak and immaterial creatures that are very difficult to detect, but victims will have all their blood sucked dry from their bodies. Two-legged silkworm, earth list number 27. All white bipedal creatures, have unparalleled ice attribute venom with no cure. Steel ants, earth list number 36. Colonial insects. Devour steel, nemesis of all artifacts. Silver-striped six-horned spider, heaven list no. 19. Has a silver pattern on its back. Intensely strong venom. Even Emperor Realm Masters cannot ward them off. Tyrant bee, heaven list number 21. Extremely strong venom in its tail stinger. Ranked highest among the world's top 10 poisonous insects. Extinct. The lists went on and on. On the heaven list, Xianxia saw the description and introduction of soul-devouring insects. Soul-devouring insects, heaven list number 11. Specializes in devouring spiritual energy, the bane of all souls. When young and weak, can be exterminated with conflagrated spiritual energy or suppressed by extraordinarily powerful divine sense. But as they grow, they become extremely difficult to subdue, even for Emperor Realm cultivators. In this exotic insect list, soul-devouring insects were ranked 11th in the heaven list, which was already very high up. Xianxia had never even heard of the 10 exotic ancient insects ranked above soul-devouring insects. In the Insect Emperor's notes, the 10 strongest exotic ancient insects had already become extinct and no longer existed in this world. Of course, this was only his personal opinion. Whether they were truly extinct or not, no one knew. Xianxia had the vague thought that the reason why these soul-devouring insects were able to rank so high up was related to their immense ability for growth. As the Insect Emperor noted, soul-devouring insects were actually not difficult to deal with when they were still weak. They could be killed with conflagrated spiritual energy or subdued with a strong divine sense. However, they would become an immense problem when they matured. Xianxia could not help but get excited when he suddenly got his hands on a book like this and read it with great interest. Since the insect emperor dared give himself such a title, it must mean that his research on the Tao of exotic insects was unparalleled. Practically no one could surpass him. He was likely to be the only person with this knowledge in the entire star boundary. Once Xianxia mastered this information, if he ever encountered any of the exotic ancient insects in this book in the future, he would be able to apply the right countermeasures to deal with them. After the heaven and earth lists in the exotic insect record, the habits, breeding methods, and restraining methods of each of the exotic ancient insects were written in detail. Most of the exotic insects had their particular restraining methods. For example, Earth List number 13, blood aphids. Even though they moved towards the smell of blood and were extremely small, even invisible to the naked eye and undetectable with divine sense, they were incredibly weak to fire. Any fire attribute secret technique would be enough to force them to retreat. And also, there was Earth List number 36, steel ants. Even though they were the nemesis of artifacts, they were afraid of a strange type of stone called moonstone. If the steel ants ingest this moonstone, then they would melt into a thick puddle of water in a few moments, dying a clean death. The key point is that moonstones weren't a precious material. They were mostly used for illumination and did not have much use as an artifact refining material, so it was quite easy to acquire in the star boundary. Xianxia deliberately searched for a method to restrain the soul-devouring insects. The insect emperor only provided two methods. One was to kill them using conflagrated spiritual energy when they were very weak, and the second was to suppress them. Since they will no longer be afraid of conflagrated knowledge seas after they grew to a certain extent, they were basically unkillable. Besides suppressing them, there was no other way to deal with them. After going through the book, Xianxia gained a lot of information and now had some ideas on how he was going to deal with the soul-devouring insects he had. Half a day later, Xianxia closed the exotic insect record. Just like when it first appeared, it disappeared without warning. In a flash of light, it was no longer in this space. But Xianxia was now the owner of the insect enslavement bracelet, so whenever he wanted to read the exotic insect record again, he could call it out at any time. Then Xianxia withdrew his divine sense and focused his mind. While unleashing the power of the insect enslavement bracelet, he dragged out the soul-devouring insects inside the soul-warming lotus in an attempt to transfer them into the insect enslavement bracelet. The soul-devouring insects he had before were not a problem for him. Even though they were unruly in the divine ascension world, these soul-devouring insects were now obedient under the suppression of the insect enslavement bracelet's aura and were quite easily transferred into the space of the insect enslavement bracelet by Xianxia. It was the sealed soul-devouring insects that worried Xianxia. Even though the sealed light ball had the double insurance of a great emperor's power, as well as the world force of the divine ascension mirror's mirror soul, Xianxia still didn't dare to take this task lightly. It took a lot of effort for him to safely transfer them to the space inside the insect enslavement bracelet. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief. Now that there were no more soul-devouring insects inside his body, he didn't have anything to worry about anymore. The two batches of soul-devouring insects were transferred in by Xianxia and placed into an unused jar. These jars were vessels made by the insect emperor from some extremely precious materials and were specifically designed to rear exotic insects. The dangerous aura that Xianxia perceived from the other jars were all from the exotic insects left behind by the insect emperor back then. Even though 10,000 years had passed, being nurtured by the special power present inside the bracelet, these exotic insects did not get weaker and instead grew even more powerful than before. Xianxia did not dare to release them. These exotic insects were not raised by him, so Xianxia did not have the confidence that he could control them. If they did not obey his orders after they were released, it would be like dropping a stone he tried to move on his foot. He could only wait for his strength to improve in the future before gradually giving it a try. Right now, the most critical matter was to deal with the soul-devouring insects. The two batches of soul-devouring insects were placed into one jar, and Xianxia sealed the jar properly before circulating his divine sense. Forming seals with both hands, Xianxia unlocked the seal on these insects using the technique Tian Yen taught him. The next moment, a buzzing sound came out from the jar. Xianxia listened to it for a moment and he could not help but pale slightly. He could clearly sense the two groups of soul-devouring insects were like two armies at this moment, slaughtering each other in a world-shaking fight. However, since the difference in strength between the two groups was not very big, the fight was particularly fierce and bloody. There seemed to be a reign of terror inside this jar. But Yang Kai was not worried about this. The exotic insect record also stated that this was one method the soul-devouring insects used to survive and evolve. They do not think, but move based on their instincts. Just like poison arts, the poison refiner will place some venomous creatures in one space and have them kill each other. The one that survives at the end would be the most powerful one. The evolutionary growth of the soul-devouring insects was exactly the same. They were driven by instincts and could not be restrained by any means. However, this evolutionary process could also be stimulated by an external force. Considering all this, Yang Kai withdrew his divine sense from the insect enslavement bracelet and opened the barriers around the cave mansion with a wave of the token in his hand, flying out. A short while later, he arrived at the peak of Purple Bamboo Peak. Looking around, he quickly found Gao Xueting's cave mansion. Flying over, Yang Kai stood outside the cave mansion, and just as he was about to shout for her, Gao Xueting's voice suddenly came from inside. "Come in!" Yang Kai was stunned, but a slightly touched expression emerged on his face. Gao Xueting was able to detect his presence so quickly, firstly because of how powerful her cultivation was, and secondly because she must have been monitoring his movements all this time. This wasn't surveillance, however, but a form of protection. She likely heard some news from Wuxia, and that was why her attention never slacked during this time. Yang Kai did not say anything and flew straight into her cave mansion. After going through several turns in the cave, Yang Kai soon arrived at a stone room. This was likely the place where Gao Xueting lived and rested. Looking around, Yang Kai was surprised to find that the cave mansion's interior was very simple with hardly any furnishings. There was only a cultivation mat and a bamboo bed. Nothing else could be seen besides that. Gao Xueting was currently sitting atop her bamboo bed, looking indifferently at him. "Elder Gao." Yang Kai cupped his fists in salute. Gao Xueting gently nodded and said with concern, "How did your retreat go?" "Thanks to Elder Gao's blessings, it was successful." Glib-tongued flattery. Gao Xueting glared at him. "Your retreat had nothing to do with me." Yang Kai did not expect Gao Xueting to be so blunt about his thoughtless flattery, and could not help feeling a little embarrassed. "Tell me, why are you looking for me?" Gao Xueting restored her look of indifference. "Oh, it's like this." Moving on to the main reason he was there, Yang Kai quickly got up and continued. "I want to ask Elder Gao if there is any facetless profound grass in Azure Sun Temple?" "Facetless profound grass?" Gao Xueting's brow wrinkled. "It's a kind of Dao source-grade mid-rank spirit grass. It's not a rare thing." Yang Kai was an alchemist himself, and he was deeply knowledgeable with spiritual flowers and exotic herbs. "What do you want this for?" Gao Xueting asked curiously. "Alchemy?" Yang Kai said insincerely, looking away, and continued. "Elder Gao, you know that I am an alchemist, and I obviously want spirit grass for alchemy." The corners of Gao Xueting's lips raised slightly, her smile barely noticeable, but did not further question Yang Kai's clumsy denial. She took out her communication artifact, transmitted divine sense into it, and said indifferently, "Let me ask. We should have it in the storehouse if this spirit grass is not a rare thing." "Many thanks, Elder Gao." Yang Kai quickly thanked her. There was a long period of silence. Yang Kai felt extremely ill at ease standing in the secluded cave mansion. He wanted to break the silence by starting a topic with Gao Xueting, but worried that she might prefer him keeping his mouth shut, therefore decided to continue the awkward silence. Gao Xueting did not engage in a conversation. She just closed her eyes and meditated, completely unaffected by Yang Kai's presence, as if he did not exist. After a while, the communication artifact in Gao Xueting's hand started to hum. She opened her beautiful eyes, transmitted information with the communication artifact, and said to Yang Kai, "There is facetless profound grass in the storehouse, a lot of it. How much do you want?" "The more, the better." Yang Kai was pleased. "It looks like you're planning to refine a lot of pills." Gao Xueting snorted. Yang Kai laughed shyly. What are you going to exchange for them? Huh. Yang Kai was stunned. Gao Shueting said, the facetless profound grass belongs to the temple. It can't be given to you for free, can it? What are you going to exchange for them? Is Elder Gao doing business with me? Yang Kai was surprised. He had never thought Gao Shueting had such a side of her. You can say so. Gao Shueting nodded. Were you planning to take them for free? Yang Kai said quickly, how is that possible? I was planning to buy them. After a pause, he asked timidly, will you accept source crystals? We're not short of source crystals. Gao Shueting replied without expression. Speechless, Yang Kai said, what do you use, if not source crystals, in business deals? Humph. Gao Shueting sneered, giving him a thoughtful look before saying, forget it. I'll ask Junior Sister Chun for their price. Many thanks. Yang Kai wiped the sweat on his forehead. For some reason, he was always under great pressure whenever he was with Gao Shueting, a phenomenon that never happened even when he was with Wen Zishan, and he had no idea why. A moment later, Gao Shueting looked at Yang Kai again. Junior Sister Chan informed me that the facetless profound grass cost 1,000 source crystals apiece. It's a reasonable price. Yang Kai was overjoyed. High-rank source crystals. Gao Shueting added. Yang Kai was stunned for a moment, then jumped up and said, are you trying to rob me? Gao Shueting was indifferent. Junior Sister Chan is responsible for the temple storehouse, and she decides everything for the storehouse. If she said it's 1,000 high-rank source crystals, then 1,000 high-rank source crystals it is. Then she said, what's wrong? Are you too poor? Not really. Sweat was beading and dripping down Yang Kai's forehead as his face twitched slightly. It's just that. The price is not right. Elder Gao, have you made it clear to Elder Chan that facetless profound grass is a mid-rank Dao source-grade spirit grass? And it's not some rare spirit grass? It can be easily cultivated by any big sect, so how could it cost so many source crystals? Who do you think this queen is? Your messenger? If you want to know, ask her yourself. Gao Shueting's already cold face became colder. Yang Kai was embarrassed by her sudden outburst. He did not know what she was angry about, and was helpless. But Gao Shueting changed her tone. She kept her eyes on Yang Kai, making him shiver. He thought to himself, Elder Gao looks cold as ice on the surface, but in fact, could she be as hot as fire on the inside? That idea scared him, making him anxious. Junior Sister Chan said that if you don't have the money to buy it, you can pay with your body. Gao Shueting said meaningfully. Gudong. Yang Kai could not help gulping as cold sweat dripped down his cheeks. Don't misunderstand, Gao Shueting explained. Junior Sister Chan meant that if you join the temple and become a disciple, you can enjoy a big discount, you can even have those facetless profound grass for free, and you can refine as many pills as you wish, become a disciple of the temple? Yang Kai looked at her in amazement. Are you not willing? Gao Shueting looked over coldly, her voice dropping a few degrees. Are you looking down on the temple? Is it not good enough for you? No, absolutely not. Yang Kai waved his hands frantically. It's just that Azure Sun Temple is such a big sect. Is it really okay to recruit someone without any procedures? Gao Shueting snorted. Normally you'd have to pass all kinds of examinations and tests to become a disciple. To put it bluntly, the temple only recruits new disciples once every 10 years. At that time, several 100,000 people participate in the trials in Azure Sun Mountain Range, and no more than 300 are ever accepted. Even among these 300 disciples, only half will become true disciples while the others will remain outer disciples who never have an opportunity to enter the inner sect. But you? She slanted her eyes towards Yang Kai. We might be able to make an exception. She looked at Yang Kai as if she just offered him a great deal, and it would be a great loss if he were to refuse. He. Yang Kai laughed dryly. Then many thanks to Elder Gao and Elder Chun for their good intentions. So, what is your decision? Gao Shueting questioned further, not giving Yang Kai time to think at all. Yang Kai cleared his throat, fully aware of the seriousness of this question. He appeared to be calm, but his mind was spinning. Soon, he replied. Elder Gao should know that Junior is used to wandering freely and has never joined any sect before. What about the Blue Feather sect? Gao Xueting interrupted him directly. Yang Kai stared at Gao Xueting and asked, Elder Gao, did you secretly investigate me? Gao Xueting said lightly, we performed a casual check, and this information wasn't hard to obtain. As you said, our sect is a great sect and has many connections. It's not a difficult task at all to investigate a few people. The corners of Yang Kai's mouth twitched and said, then how much does Elder Gao know about this Junior? Gao Xueting said, apart from the color of your underwear, this queen knows everything, including that you're not a native of the star boundary. Yang Kai was sweating profusely as he wiped his forehead. Elder Gao is really well informed. On the inside, he was cursing out Bian Yuqing. If he was not mistaken, Gao Xueting's source of information was definitely her. Bian Yuqing was just a third-order Dao source realm cultivator. If Gao Xueting really wanted information from her, there was no way Bian Yuqing could refuse. Yang Kai just wondered when Gao Xueting had done this. Since Elder Gao knows about Junior's past with Blue Feather Sect, Elder Gao must also know why I joined and what happened after. Yang Kai knew he could not hide it any longer and could only tell the truth. Gao Xueting nodded. I was quite unhappy during those months in Blue Feather Sect. Yang Kai said seriously. Oh, don't worry, the temple is different from those small sects like Blue Feather Sect. You will feel at home here. If you want, this queen can even take you as her disciple and teach you how to cultivate. Hearing this, Yang Kai gaped at Gao Xueting in surprise. Her making such a proposal showed that Gao Xueting really wanted to recruit him into Azure Sun Temple. However, even from an objective standpoint, Yang Kai did have such potential. He was young and had good cultivation, an obvious target for all major sects to compete for. Moreover, he was a Dao source-grade alchemist and also a cultivator from the lower star fields. He was strong and had a strong foundation, having also taken an extraordinary treasure pill. In other words, it was only a matter of time before he broke through to the Emperor realm. Azure Sun Temple did not want to let go of a potential emperor. His qualifications were enough for Gao Xueting to want to recruit him. Of course, with Gao Xueting's aloof personality, this was not a task she would normally take up unless someone had directed her. And who other than Wen Zishan could be the person behind that? Yang Kai figured everything out very quickly and was honestly quite tempted. Gao Xueting's proposal was not very shrewd, but it was very sincere. During this period, Yang Kai also felt the sincerity and concern of the few Azure Sun Temple elders, and he got along well with Xianxia and the other disciples. It was not a bad idea to be a disciple of Azure Sun Temple. There would be all kinds of advantages to joining a great force like Azure Sun Temple, and few would ever dare to challenge such a disciple. However, Yang Kai had his own concerns. His biggest concern was the demon spirit sealed in his body. When he was possessed by the demon spirit and was reduced to a demon that day, he had battled against Gao Xueting. If he really joined the temple, in the case that this information was disclosed, he was unsure what Gao Xueting would do to him. The demon spirit of the ancient great demon was not something that could be ignored. Yang Kai hesitated for a moment, unable to decide if he should join Azure Sun Temple and enjoy the cool shade under this big tree, or if he should continue to stay independent and free. Go back and consider it for a few days, then give me an answer once you have made your mind. Gao Xueting seemed to notice his dilemma, and instead of pushing him, she took the initiative to step back. Yang Kai immediately breathed out a sigh of relief. Many thanks, Elder Gao, regarding the matter of facetless profound grass. The price remains the same and we'll keep an account of it. I've ordered someone to send you 1,000 pieces for now, Gao Xueting said lightly. This account will be settled when you decide to become a disciple of our temple. Right. The corner of Yang Kai's mouth twitched, thinking that the Azure Sun Temple really valued him if they were willing to use such a method to keep him with them. Then there was a long period of silence again. At a certain moment, Gao Xueting opened her beautiful eyes once again. You may go. The person who will deliver the facetless profound grass is already waiting outside. Just talk to him yourself. Many thanks, Elder Gao. Yang Kai turned and left after giving thanks to Gao Xueting. When he was outside of the secluded cave mansion, Yang Kai saw a middle-aged man waiting for him. This man looked about 40 years old, but his cultivation was only at the first-order Dao source realm. This level of cultivation may be satisfying in some places such as Maplewood City, since all the old ancestors in the various major families were just at this level. However, this was quite lacking in Azure Sun Temple, so obviously this middle-aged man's aptitude wasn't the best. Ever since Yang Kai came out from Maplewood City and stepped into this journey of his, he had seen countless rising stars and young talents, so his vision and experience were much broader than before. As soon as the middle-aged man saw Yang Kai walking out of Gao Shueting's cave mansion, he hurriedly put a smiley face on and cupped his fists. This one has brought 1,000 pieces of facetless profound grass by the order of Elder Chun. I wonder if your excellency is senior brother Yang Kai. Yang Kai nodded. The man's eyes lit up and he praised, I've heard about brother Yang for a long time. Seeing you today, you really live up to your name. What? Am I famous in Azure Sun Temple? Yang Kai touched his nose. The middle-aged man said with a smile, I'm afraid Brother Yang has been training hard in isolation these days, so he has yet to hear the news from outside. The name of Brother Yang is not just widely spread in Azure Sun Temple, but also across the entire Southern Territory. Is there such a thing? Yang Kai's face turned solemn as he suddenly had a bad premonition. The man did not realize the change in Yang Kai's expression as he continued to bootlick. The news about Brother Yang refining the extraordinary treasure pill in the Four Seasons realm and overwhelming Wu Chang from the heavenly martial Holy Land has shocked the whole world. Brother Yang is extremely famous now. When he got to this point, he suddenly found that Yang Kai's face had turned ugly, and immediately figured out the problem. With a smile, he stopped his flattery and spoke after giving out a cough. Brother Yang, these are the facetless profound grass that Elder Chun asked me to deliver. Would you like to count them? It's fine. Yang Kai reached for the space ring that was passed to him and thanked that man with his fist cupped before turning around to leave. Although Yang Kai had predicted that some of his secrets could no longer be hidden after his involvement in the incident in the Four Seasons realm, he did not expect that the news would spread so fast and so wide. It was outside of his predictions. If so, he should seriously consider Gao Shueting's proposal to join Azure Sun Temple. With the umbrella of protection of Azure Sun Temple, he could certainly avoid a lot of troubles in the future, while without it, he would probably be hunted when he traveled around Star Boundary. The cultivators in the Four Seasons realm already knew that the extraordinary treasure pills were all gone. However, matters related to the extraordinary treasure pill were quite sensational. Some would still come and demand Yang Kai hand over the extraordinary treasure pills he had. The more he thought about it, the more frustrated he got. When he returned to the secluded cave mansion on Purple Bamboo Peak's mountainside, his mood gradually stabilized. There was no need to be worried about this for now. If such a thing really happened, he would just have to deal with it then. Moreover, he was not someone to be trifled with. Despite his cultivation apparently not having progressed since the Four Seasons realm closed, his soul had grown significantly inside the divine Ascension mirror world. Any average cultivator would not be his match. Yang Kai would only have troubles if an emperor came to seek him out. But even if it was a first-order emperor realm master, couldn't he just run away if he couldn't defeat them? When he thought of this, his mood brightened up and a feeling of pride kicked in. Yang Kai overflowed with indescribable self-confidence, which made him feel a lot more relaxed. After he sat down cross-legged again, he took out the insect enslavement bracelet and threw the 1,000 facetless profound grass into it before stuffing them all into the jar which contained the soul-devouring insects. According to the exotic insect record, due to its medicinal scent that had extremely stimulating effects on the soul-devouring insects, facetless profound grass was the best herb to promote their evolution. This spirit grass was also very effective in helping the growth of the soul-devouring insects. All of a sudden, a mad burst of cracking sounds came from within the jar, like the galloping noises of a golden-armored horse. After listening for a while, Yang Kai ignored it. There was no way for him to interfere with the evolution of the soul-devouring insects. Only time would tell the final results of their evolution. Withdrawing his divine sense, Yang Kai took out another object and placed it in his hand to study attentively. It was another emperor artifact of the insect emperor, the soul-splitting saber. Before entering the divine Ascension mirror world, Xianxia never thought that the soul-splitting saber was actually a soul-type emperor artifact. If it had not been brought into the divine Ascension mirror world with him, Xianxia would not have realized this until a long time later. Xianxia would not consider refining it if it was just an ordinary emperor artifact. These days he had numerous tricks to handle his enemies. Without even mentioning all of the abilities he had personally created for himself, Xianxia also possessed two emperor artifacts, the Annihilation Thunder Bead and the Myriad Swords. Unfortunately, the Myriad Sword had to be returned to the Qin family when he went back to Maplewood City. However, one could not digest well when being stuffed with too much good food. This was one of Xianxia's concerns before, so he had not planned to refine the soul-splitting saber previously. On top of that, he had not been strong enough to do this anyways. But everything changed since he now knew this was a soul-type emperor artifact. Xianxia needed to refine it now. Having made up his mind a while ago, after he settled matters regarding the soul-devouring insects, Xianxia began to refine the soul-splitting saber. He thought that refining such an emperor artifact would certainly take up a lot of effort and energy, since even the insect enslavement bracelet had taken him a full whole month to refine. But, contrary to what Xianxia originally thought, refining the soul-splitting saber was easier than the insect enslavement bracelet. In less than half a month, Xianxia has broken the seal on the soul-splitting saber, erased the soul imprint of the insect emperor, and left his own soul imprint in its place. After thinking it over, Xianxia felt that there were probably two reasons for this situation. First, his spiritual energy was strong enough to shorten the refining time. Second, the soul-splitting saber was once fused with his own soul avatar and fought together with him against enemies in the divine Ascension mirror world. This experience had strengthened the connection between the soul-splitting saber and himself, allowing him to refine it in just half a month. However, like with all artifacts, Xianxia was unable to exert this soul-splitting saber's maximum power, even if he had successfully refined it. In order to do that, a long period of nourishing and adapting was necessary. Xianxia sent the soul-splitting saber into his knowledge sea and then appeared before it in his soul avatar form. Next, he spared no energy to cultivate a certain secret technique with it. This secret technique was learned from Tianyan. During his last days in the divine Ascension world, Xianxia learned a lot from Senior Tianyan. Tianyan was a great emperor after all, and although he did not have a physical body, it was still a simple matter for him to teach Xianxia some things at his level. Tianyan was extremely generous with Xianxia and passed him almost all of his accumulated knowledge and experiences in the cultivation of the soul. However, in terms of secret techniques, Xianxia only learnt one from Tianyan. Tianyan once said to him that the quality of the secret techniques one possessed was more important than the quantity. If Xianxia mastered just one extraordinary secret technique to an incredible height, he could still be invincible. On the other hand, learning many secret techniques to a subpar level would only prove useless. All roads lead to one path. The same was true for secret arts and secret techniques. As such, he only taught one secret technique to Xianxia. This secret technique was called the heaven-severing slash. During normal times, Xianxia would cultivate this secret technique by nourishing his weapon with his spiritual energy. Then, when he needed to use this secret technique, Xianxia could unleash all of the accumulated energy in his weapon in a single strike, resulting in an almost certain kill technique. Tianyan did not have a soul-type artifact, so he only used this secret technique to nourish a weapon he had formed from his own spiritual energy. On top of that, it was 10,000 years ago when he was just an ordinary Emperor Realm Master that he created this secret technique. Tianyan today did not need this kind of secret technique. He was a great emperor and could control principal strength to a high degree. No one in that world could stand against him in a fight, so why would he still need special secret techniques? Therefore, he passed this skill down to Xianxia. Although the heaven-severing slash would only have a miraculous effect on the first strike delivered by the soul-type artifact it was cultivated with, and subsequent attacks could only exert the original power of that artifact, the soul-splitting saber itself was an emperor artifact. So even if Xianxia could not release its maximum power, few would be able to withstand such a strike given his current strength. With the support of this secret technique, the heaven-severing slash, Even an Emperor Realm Master could be severely injured if they were taken off guard. This was a life-saving, certain kill trump card. Therefore Yang Kai spared no effort to cultivate it. Inside his knowledge sea, Yang Kai's soul avatar revealed itself and continuously sent spiritual energy towards the soul-splitting saber, causing the flames around him to dance about madly. With every crash of the flaming waves, the soul-splitting saber seemed to glow faintly and its aura would increase ever so slightly. This increase was almost unnoticeable, but if it continued to build like this, it would reach an astonishing intensity in time. The first strike from this technique would definitely be earth-shaking. From time to time, Yang Kai opened his mouth to blow out a pure breath from his soul towards the soul-splitting saber, tempering the strength within. As the days passed, Yang Kai stayed in the cave mansion on Purple Bamboo Peak and cultivated the heaven-severing slash with his soul-splitting saber. But he also spent some time checking in on Hua Qingxi and Zhang Ruoxi in the small sealed world. Ever since he gave the last extraordinary treasure pill to Hua Qingxi and she consumed it unceremoniously, this woman's attitude towards Yang Kai had turned around completely. Although she did not act at Yang Kai's beck and call, she no longer rejected him directly as she used to and was much more accommodating. The principles of the small sealed world weren't perfect. Although the small sealed world had absorbed a lot of shattered principles from the third layer of the five-colored treasure pagoda, its inner world principles still lacked something and could never be compared to the principles of the star boundary. It was not a problem for a master like Hua Qingxi, with her level of cultivation, to normally cultivate and comprehend in the small sealed world. However, if she wanted to break through, the small sealed world was not suitable for her due to the imperfection of the principles here. The heavenly way and martial Tao that she could sense and comprehend from this place were insufficient to support her next breakthrough. But when that time came, Yang Kai would definitely let her out and find a safe and proper place for her to break through peacefully. By then, Yang Kai would have a subordinate emperor who could fight for him. He was so excited just thinking about it. Zhang Ruoxi had also made rapid progress these days, and now her second-order returning realm cultivation had been fully consolidated. The cultivating speed of those favored sons and daughters of heaven paled in comparison to Zhang Ruoxi's. Something in Zhang Ruoxi seemed to be awakening gradually, and as it did so, her cultivation speed only grew faster and faster. There was a gradual change in her character as well, as she became less timid and instead was imbued with strength and confidence. This naturally pleased Yang Kai. It had been 2 months since Yang Kai came back from the Divine Ascension Mirror World, and today, like the day before, he was nourishing his soul-splitting saber in order to cultivate the heaven-severing slash in his cave mansion. Suddenly, he sensed the barrier outside being slightly disturbed. He immediately stopped his cultivation and returned his consciousness to his body. Taking out the control token, he then disabled the barriers. A voice was heard from outside. "Young Master Yang, young Master Yang." The voice was familiar and Yang Kai realized who the person was after a while. He replied, "Please enter, Deacon Tao." Outside the cave mansion, Tao Ming, who originally had a small grudge with Yang Kai a few months ago, heard his invitation and stepped into the cave mansion with a solemn face. After a short while, he came to the secret room. However, Tao Ming at this moment had long lost his past arrogance and greeted Yang Kai with a flattering smile. "Pardon me for interrupting young Master Yang's rest. This Tao feels deeply guilty about this." Yang Kai glanced at him and said lightly, "Who sent you here? What news do you bring?" Tao Ming's face turned solemn again after hearing this. "By the order of Sir Temple Master, this Tao is here to inform young Master Yang that the item you need has been found." Yang Kai got up hastily as his eyes lit up and he called out, "Really?" Tao Ming smiled. Temple Master gave his word personally for this matter. "Great! It's been found." Yang Kai brightened up. Although Tao Ming did not tell him what it was, what else could it be other than the tribulation fruit? Even though Yang Kai had been busy with the insect enslavement bracelet, raising his soul-devouring insects, and nourishing his soul-splitting saber, he never stopped thinking about the matter of the tribulation fruit. It was just that the appointed time had not arrived, so he did not become impatient either. Now he finally received the good news. He could not help releasing a sigh of relief, and his whole body relaxed, as if the burden he had been carrying for a long time was finally lifted. After all, the tribulation fruit was a matter of life or death for Qin Yu. All the opportunities that he received during these past few months were only possible because of the bustling world token owned by Qin Zhaoyang. If he failed to obtain the tribulation fruit, Yang Kai would not have been able to give a proper confession to Qin Zhaoyang and the Qin family. This matter would definitely become a stain on his conscience and may even develop into a heart demon. But now he no longer needed to worry. Since when Zishan had ordered Tao Ming to send a message to him, it meant that the tribulation fruit had been found. In this way, he could bring the spirit fruit back to Maplewood City, hand it over to the Qin family, and finally untie this knot in his heart. Tao Ming rejoiced with him. Although he had no idea what Yang Kai was looking forward to, he just needed to flatter him. Right, Deacon Tao? Did the temple master say where that thing is now? Yang Kai asked after composing himself again. Tao Ming replied, Temple master said that the thing is already en route and will be here within 3 days. Young Master Yang may rest assured that there will not be any accidents. Good, good, good. Thank Temple Master One on my behalf. Yang Kai cupped his fists formally. If young Master Yang has no other orders, this Tao will take his leave. Tao Ming smiled. And many thanks, Deacon Tao. Yang Kai sent Tao Ming off, but he did not feel like cultivating again after. He guessed that when Zishan had sent a message to him just now in order to let him feel at ease, but he also probably did not expect that Yang Kai would value the tribulation fruit so much. Yang Kai felt like he was sitting on pins and needles in his cave mansion for the next 3 days, and early in the morning of the last day, Yang Kai left Purple Bamboo Peak and rushed towards Myriad Saints Peak. When Yang Kai reached the temple's main peak, before he could even announce his arrival, when Zishan's voice called out from inside, "Come in!" Yang Kai was startled, but quickly straightened up his clothes and stepped in. There was no one else in the temple except for Wen Zishan, who was sitting cross-legged, seemingly cultivating some kind of mysterious art. Yang Kai waited quietly and did not interrupt him after entering the temple. Secretly, Yang Kai was impressed. Wen Zishan was already so powerful with his third-order Emperor realm cultivation, yet he was still so diligent and did not slack at all in his efforts. For a cultivator, being untalented was not scary. What made a cultivator formidable was not their aptitude, but their will. No doubt, Wen Zishan was a man of incredible will. It was not a fluke that he was able to reach the third-order Emperor realm. After a short while, Wen Zishan ceased his work and opened his eyes. He looked at Yang Kai and teased, "What's wrong? Can't wait for it anymore?" Yang Kai said shyly, "The earlier I see it, the earlier I will be at ease." A loyal and righteous spirit. When Zishan nodded, the bustling world token from the Qin family was not wasted. It's only natural for a man to fulfill his promises, Yang Kai replied. When Zishan nodded lightly, pondered for a short while before saying, "Have you given the matter mentioned by little Shui Ting any thoughts?" Yang Kai gave a wry smile after hearing this. "So, it was Temple Master Wen who asked Elder Gao to persuade me?" "Yes, it was my idea. But little Shui Ting also has great expectations of you," Wen Zishan admitted bluntly. "Besides, you have entered the divine Ascension mirror world, so you can already be considered half a disciple of the temple, yes? This is a secret that even ordinary disciples do not know about." Yang Kai looked solemn and pondered for a long while. He seemed to be considering the words that he was about to say for a long time before finally opening his mouth. "Many thanks to the kindness of Temple Master One and Elder Gao, but Junior does not have any thoughts about joining any sect for now. It is not because I despise or even dislike your noble temple, but Junior has his own reasons." Of course, what he meant was the demon spirit. When Zishan gazed at him intently and nodded, "Fine. This king won't force you. However, if one day you grow tired of wandering outside, just come to our temple. Our gates will always be open for you." Yang Kai was slightly moved and bowed deeply. "Many thanks for your kindness, Temple Master One. If such a day does come, it will be this Junior's honor to accept." When Zishan grinned, "This king was like you back then, in love with the idea of wandering freely and enjoying life. But then," the corner of his mouth twitched before he continued, I picked up a little girl who fought like a wild cat for food in the wild. The appearance of Gao Shueting floated before Yang Kai's eyes. So, bear in mind that you can pick up any treasure during your travels across the star boundary. But be sure not to pick up a little girl. When Zishan said in a sincere and serious tone, "These little girls are cute, gentle, and obedient when they are young. But when they grow up, they will show absolutely no respect for you and become utterly heartless." Just speaking of this now, it brings tears to one's eyes. He looked extremely hurt, making Yang Kai feel speechless. Only brings tears to your eyes, is it? A cold, emotionless voice suddenly came from outside the hall, causing the temperature inside the plummet rapidly. It was as if the weather had suddenly turned and winter rolled in, causing one to feel a chill deep in their bones. When Zishan froze solid and his face twisted up, as if he had been hit by some kind of paralyzing technique. A moment later, a beautiful figure slowly walked inside. Gao Shueting, her face cold as ice, swept her beautiful eyes, which seemed to be filled with thunder and lightning, across the room. When Zishan seemed to shrink to half his original height at that moment, and even Yang Kai could not help shivering. A murderous intent and hostility filled the air. Show absolutely no respect, right? Gao Shueting said flatly as the corners of her mouth curled upwards ever so slightly. This is... that... When Zishan's sweat was dripping down like a waterfall and his words cracked like he was stuttering incoherently. At the same time, his eyes kept swirling about as he forced himself to put on a flattering smile. "Little Shueting Hua, what are you doing here? Why didn't you send a notification before coming in? Isn't this a little impolite?" Gao Shueting answered coldly. "I'm here to deliver the tribulation fruit." Saying so, she tossed a jade box to Yang Kai. Yang Kai's eyes lit up as he caught the jade box and opened it with a flick. The box was full of cold mist, and a crystal-like spirit fruit was lying quietly inside it. The tribulation fruit. Even though Yang Kai had never seen the real thing before, he could still identify it at a glance. By looking at the appearance of the tribulation fruit, it seemed that it was freshly harvested not long ago. If he wasn't mistaken, this tribulation fruit was the very one that had been picked in the realm of winter in the Four Seasons realm. Yang Kai didn't know which great force Azure Sun Temple obtained this spirit fruit from, but given the time consumed, it seemed that the Azure Sun Temple had put in a lot of effort for this. Utterly heartless, you say? Gao Shueting did not intend to give up, however, and continued to stare at Wen Zishan coldly after handing over the spirit fruit, her eyes flashing like sharp swords. Wen Zishan grit his teeth before putting on a strong expression and bellowing to Yang Kai, "Disaster has come, so this temple master will take his leave first. Take care of yourself. If you ever encounter troubles in the future, come to the temple." Yang Kai did not even have time to give his thanks before Wen Zishan's figure flickered and disappeared. "You want to run?" A cold light flashed across Gao Shueting's beautiful eyes as she summoned her radiant sun mirror emperor artifact. An intense beam of blazing sunlight shot out towards the void, and a moment later, Wen Zishan's figure reappeared in that direction. Although Gao Shueting found his whereabouts, Temple Master 1 was still able to escape the radiant sun mirror's suppression with his extraordinary strength and disappeared in a blink of an eye. "Old thing, don't you dare run. Today I will show you what it really means to have no respect and become utterly heartless." Gao Shueting ground her teeth as she stomped her foot and chased after Wen Zishan. The disciples who were guarding outside watched this scene with their jaws dropped. Yang Kai, who was holding the jade box, looked at the farce with a smile on his face. He kept smiling and smiling until he suddenly could not smile anymore, slapping his thigh in regret. "I forgot to ask about the shattered star sea again. Maplewood City, Qin family." On the sickbed in Qin Yu's boudoir, laid Qin Yu looking as pale as a ghost. She coughed gently from time to time and occasionally so violently that she could not even breathe. An inexplicable death chi lingered around Qin Yu, one that even ordinary mortals who had never cultivated before could vaguely feel. Someone with a bit of cultivation could clearly see Qin Yu was enveloped by a faint black chi with just a scan of their divine sense. As time went by, the black chi became denser. No one knew what kind of energy the black chi was, but since it appeared 2 months ago, it had been devouring Qin Yu's vitality, making her condition worse day by day. It was her world tribulation body special constitution, which was not allowed by the heavens and earth. Anyone with Qin Yu's special constitution could not live beyond 18 years of age, because the world principles would cut off their vitality. Beside the sickbed, a maidservant who served Qin Yu gently wiped away the tears from her red and swollen eyes. Qin Yu was kind and polite to both her seniors and juniors. Everyone in the Qin family respected her, including this maidservant. The maidservant was in extreme distress that the young lady of the family was suffering from a serious illness and had weakened this much in just 2 months. "What are you crying for? Get out of here, you useless thing," Qin Zhaoyang shouted in fury from the side. He was extremely anxious these days, and the sight of this maidservant crying in front of him aggravated his worries and fury, so he could not stop himself from venting at her. The maidservant fell to her knees in terror, but she did not leave. "Forgive me, old ancestor. Please show mercy. This servant will stop crying. But this servant will not go. This servant wants to stay and take care of the young lady," she begged repeatedly with utter sincerity. Qin Zhaoyang opened his mouth to say something but could only sigh deeply, raised his hand to use an invisible force to lift the maidservant up. Restraining his anger, he muttered, "Forget it." He was too depressed and lonely to argue. It is this servant's fault. This servant did not take good care of the young lady. As the maidservant spoke, she silently wiped the newly shed tears from her eyes. "Old ancestor." On the sickbed, Qin Yu gently called out suddenly. With another fierce cough, the maidservant quickly went forward to pat her back. After Qin Yu had stopped coughing, Qin Zhaoyang said in a soft voice, "Yuer, take a good rest. Don't say anything." Qin Yu shook her head slowly and asked, "Big brother Yang, is he back yet?" Hearing this, Qin Zhaoyang's face changed slightly, at a loss for words. As Qin Yu approached her 18th birthday, Yang Kai was her only hope for survival, but there was still no sign of him. Qin Zhaoyang could not help but begin to wonder if he had trusted the wrong person. He had already investigated what happened in the Four Seasons realm. In the Four Seasons realm, Yang Kai had performed an incredible feat of refining a legendary spirit pill before outwitting and overpowering the elite disciples of various great forces all on his own. The news had spread widely across the entire Southern Territory. Maplewood City was a small city, but it was not difficult to catch the news with Qin Zhaoyang's effort. However, the Four Seasons realm had closed nearly 3 months ago, so if Yang Kai had really gotten the tribulation fruit, he should have come back to Maplewood City long ago. Why then had he not appeared yet? Qin Zhaoyang did not want to be overly suspicious and pessimistic, but he just could not be at ease for even a day without seeing Yang Kai. He did not know whether Yang Kai was too embarrassed to see him because he failed to obtain the tribulation fruit, or Yang Kai did not take the matter of the tribulation fruit seriously and had completely forgotten the matter. The world was too big, so even if he planned to look for Yang Kai, he would not know where to start. What was more, he did not have enough time. "Old ancestor, are you suspecting Big Brother Yang?" Although Qin Yu was extremely ill, she was still as beautiful and intelligent as before and immediately knew what was on his mind as soon as she saw the look on Qin Zhaoyang's face. Old ancestor does not want to overthink things either. He just hopes little brother Yang can bring that item back as soon as possible. But, even if he didn't manage to obtain the item, he should still return to explain. He is not omnipotent. This old ancestor can understand, but now perhaps Big Brother Yang was delayed by some important matter, Qin Yu said softly, but just as she had just finished speaking, she coughed again. Old ancestor hopes so. Qin Zhaoyang gave a wry smile, but he disapproved in his heart. Even if he was delayed, he could always send someone to deliver a message, right? Deep down in his heart, he felt that Yang Kai probably took the myriad sword from the Qin family and did not want to come back. It would be fine even if he lost an emperor artifact like the myriad sword as, although it was extremely valuable, the Qin family had declined so far that no one in the family could use its power anymore. Also, an ordinary man is innocent but his treasures make him guilty. so having such a precious treasure around might bring them more harm than good down the line. But the cost of trusting the wrong person made Qin Zhaoyang feel extremely heartbroken, and he secretly regretted that he had given such an important task to a person he barely knew. If he had gone to the Four Seasons realm on his own at that time, there might be a glimmer of hope that Qin Yu could be saved. The deep sense of guilt and self-blame was the cause of Qin Zhaoyang's sleepless nights and lack of appetite. Big Brother Yang will be back, Qin Yu said with a determined voice. He is not the kind of person who would take advantage of others and leave without saying goodbye. Young lady, at this point of time, why are you still defending that person? The maidservant watched in distress, tears struggling to leak out again. You don't know anything, Qin Yu reprimanded her gently and continued. Although I haven't known Big Brother Yang for a long time, old ancestor, you should know that I have the fated fortune heavenly pupil, and my judgment about people is never wrong. Hearing this, Qin Zhaoyang's eyes lit up, and he felt a little hopeful again. It was true. Although Qin Yu did not have a very high cultivation, because she had the fated fortune heavenly pupil, her ability to assess others' characters was incredibly accurate. With just a glance, she could sense if a person was good or evil, and if a person was trustworthy or not. Without Qin Yu's advice, Qin Zhaoyang would never have given the Four Seasons realm entry quota to Yang Kai. So Big Brother Yang must be delayed by something. Qin Yu ended the discussion before changing the topic. Old ancestor, don't worry about me and attend to your own affairs. I will get better sooner or later. In fact, I heard from Huir that quite a few important characters have recently arrived here in Maplewood City, and some are even residing in our Qin residence. Qin Zhaoyang nodded. Old ancestor did not tell you about it because you were so ill lately, but it seems this little girl has been gossiping behind my back. While talking, he glared at the maidservant called Huir. The maidservant gulped. This servant just told the young lady some recent news to uplift her mood. This servant dares not repeat it next time. I'll chop off your legs if this happens again. Qin Zhaoyang snorted coldly. Don't be afraid, old ancestor is just scaring you. Qin Yu smiled and patted the back of Huir's hand. Qin Zhaoyang sighed deeply. The people in the family are all spoiled by you. Old ancestor, what is happening in the city recently? Why have so many people suddenly come? Qin Yu asked, turning her head. In the past 2 years, the peace of Maplewood City was consistently disturbed. First was the appearance of the divine spirit Luan Feng, attracting masters sent by great forces like Star Soul Palace to investigate. Then, there was a demon chi explosion which besieged the city, causing a great deal of trouble. The nearby forest city was wiped out in the latter incident, but fortunately, the demon chi had retreated voluntarily in the end, restoring peace and calm once more. If that wasn't the case, Maplewood City would likely be a desolated ruin by now. After that event, a few Emperor Realm Masters worked tirelessly to investigate the situation. The reason for the arrivals of these masters this time was still unknown to Qin Yu, so she was quite curious. Although Qin Yu heard some rumors from Huir, she did not know any details. The source of this recent incident actually has something to do with the appearance of that demon chi last time. Qin Zhaoyang sighed, with a sad look on his face. Qin Yu's delicate face slightly changed upon hearing this, and she exclaimed, Is it possible the demon chi that disappeared inexplicably has appeared again? Huir, who was standing next to her, trembled, with her face filled with terror. That's not it, Qin Zhaoyang replied. The demon chi retreated inexplicably and has never appeared again. The reason for what is happening now is because a high-grade earth vein has appeared beneath the seal that we visited last time. A high-grade earth vein? Qin Yu's eyes lit up. Has a high-grade earth vein really appeared in our Maplewood City? Qin Zhaoyang laughed. We, the old folk of the city, were surprised too. The reason why Maplewood City has not attracted any great forces is that it is too small and the world energy aura of this region is not very rich. There are also no special products produced here, so the city lord's mansion has been able to take responsibility for all things all this time. However, when this high-grade earth vein appeared, the situation changed. A single high-grade earth vein would not be enough to cause such a stir. Could there be other reasons these great forces have decided to act? Indeed, Qin Zhaoyang looked solemn. Near that high-grade earth vein, it seems that many branches of mid-grade and low-grade earth veins have also been found. In addition, towards the direction of clear Jade Mountain, a source crystal lode was discovered, but the grade of this mine is still to be determined. Qin Yu could not help feeling shocked this time. She finally understood why Maplewood City had attracted so many outsiders. A source crystal's load was enough to start a war over, not to mention that there were many earth veins of different qualities in this place too. Of course, great forces like Star Soul Palace would not pay any attention to these earth veins or a single source crystal load, but the second and third tier forces are all very interested in these things. Qin Zhaoyang continued. Maplewood City is not the same anymore. There are already several dozen third-order Dao Source Realm Masters here, and if the benefits seem to be large enough, it probably won't be long until emperors begin to appear as well. Qin Yu listened intently, then said seriously, "Old ancestor, during this critical situation I don't think we, the Qin family, should get ourselves involved. Let us just wait and observe. We are no match to those giants." Old ancestor naturally understands this. Qin Zhaoyang forced a smile. It's just that the Qin family has rooted in Maplewood City and we can't stay out entirely. The masters from the second and third class sects were not willing to settle down in the various inns in the city and instead chose to stay in the residences of the few large families here. The Zhou family, Du family, Liang family, and Xian family have shown hospitality to a number of such forces each. And even the City Lord's mansion was wrested away by Flying Saint Palace. Even the City Lord's mansion. Qin Yu covered her mouth. Qin Zhaoyang continued. Flying Saint Palace is helmed by an Emperor Realm Master, while Sir City Lord is just a second-order Dao Source Realm cultivator. How could he raise any objections? We, the Qin family, are already considered to be lucky by comparison as we only need to deal with one great force. But the City Lord's mansion, they are in dire straits. What happened? Qin Yu questioned. Qin Zhaoyang's face darkened. He said, Zhuang Pan returned. What? Qin Yu's face turned black after hearing this, and she couldn't help gritting her teeth. That shameless coward still dares to return? Back when the city was besieged by the demon Qi wave, the few masters available had united and used the Black Tortoise 7-points array to forge their way towards the sealing place of the demon Qi in order to stem its tide. However, before they could complete their task, Zhuang Pan had lost his nerve and, caring for nothing but saving his own skin, deserted the others and ran off at the crucial moment, leading to the destruction of the Black Tortoise 7-points array. Although Duan Yuan Shan managed to escape at the last moment and bring Qin Zhaoyang and Qin Yu back to Maplewood City, they had failed to reinforce the Demon Qi seal. No one knew what happened next, only that 3 Emperor Realm Masters showed up right after and then the Demon Qi disappeared. Zhuang Pan had not been seen since then. He used to be a Vice City Lord of Maplewood City, similar to Drunkard. He assisted Duan Yuan Shan in managing Maplewood City and the surrounding 10,000-kilometer region. After he disappeared, the position of Vice City Lord was naturally left unfilled. Duan Yuan Shan had tried to persuade Yang Kai to fill that position, but he kindly refused. After that incident, everyone, including the Qin family and Duan Yuan Shan, hated Zhuang Pan deeply. Duan Yuan Shan even announced in public that he would execute this cowardly traitor if he ever saw him again. Who could have expected that this same snake would return just a few months later? How could Qin Yu not be surprised? Qin Zhaoyang coldly snorted. He didn't just shamelessly return. He actually came back even more arrogant than before. What happened? Qin Yu frowned, vaguely feeling that there must be more to the story. What else could have happened? He sought refuge in the Flying Saint Palace. Qin Zhaoyang sneered. He was also the one who led the delegation from Flying Saint Palace into the City Lord's mansion. I bet City Lord Duan must be suffering. Qin Yu was silent for a while after listening to him, seemingly imagining the helplessness Duan Yuan Shan must be experiencing. With the backing of Flying Saint Palace, Zhuang Pan could parade around wantonly while Duan Yuan Shan could do nothing against him. Their situation had totally reversed from before, so Duan Yuan Shan must be incomparably frustrated. City Lord's mansion today was only an empty title. Every family is not having a good time now. The Zhou family, Du family, Liang family, and Xian family are all quite irritated by this foul atmosphere. Xian Gao Jie has come to me and complained about the bitterness his family is suffering several times already. Qin Zhao Yang sighed with his head shaking slowly. Then our Qin family? Qin Yu stopped, swallowing back the words on the tip of her tongue. It's still fine so far, Qin Zhao Yang said in a heavy tone. The sect that came to stay in our Qin residence is called Eight Paths Sect, a second-class sect, and the young man who leads them prefers solitude, so he can focus entirely on his cultivation, so our Qin family has not been given any serious trouble from him. The same goes for this young man's subordinates, so we have been able to coexist peacefully until now. That's good then. Qin Yu felt relieved after hearing this. Our Qin family has it comparatively good. Qin Zhao Yang smiled faintly. While they were still speaking, a sudden rush of footsteps was heard from the outside. It seemed that someone was running in their direction. Qin Zhao Yang couldn't help but frown. After a while, the voice of the maidservant rang out, "Old ancestor." The voice quivered with uncontrolled emotions. "Have a good rest, Yuer. Old ancestor will be back soon." Qin Zhao Yang did not want to disturb Qin Yu's mood with some trivial matters, so he turned to leave after comforting her. "Old ancestor." Qin Yu called out from behind, "Be careful." Qin Zhao Yang gently nodded and walked out. After closing the door, he flashed his eyes like lightning and glared at the maidservant. The eyes of the maidservant were filled with tears as she began to speak, but then hesitated when she noticed Qin Zhao Yang's stare. Qin Zhao Yang walked out of the boudoir and the maidservant followed closely behind him. After taking some distance from Qin Yu's room, Qin Zhao Yang asked, "What's the matter? Speak, old ancestor." The maidservant hurriedly explained what happened just now. Qin Zhao Yang's face darkened after hearing her explanation and rushed out to the rear courtyard. Inside her room, Qin Yu spoke to Huir. "Help me up." Huir asked in shock, "Young lady, what do you want to do?" "To see what is happening. I have a bad feeling." Qin Yu answered with worry. "We have old ancestor with us. What could happen? In fact, young lady is the one who is not feeling well now, so it's better not to get up. Are you going to help me or not?" Qin Yu stared at her Huir with her sharp but beautiful eyes. Huir panicked seeing this and desperately tried to dissuade. "Young lady, this servant dares not without old ancestor's consent." "Then I will get up by myself." Qin Yu grit her teeth and slowly straightened her body. It was just a simple movement, but it already caused her to groan in pain and cold sweat to bead on her forehead. Huir, watching from the side, was anxious like a cat on a hot brick and kept trying to persuade Qin Yu to stop, but her young lady turned a deaf ear to her pleas. In the end, Huir had no choice but to choke down her tears and assist Qin Yu. City Lord's Mansion. Inside the main hall of the City Lord's Mansion, a man who appeared to be in his 20s sat at the head seat. Although this man had an impressive appearance, there was a sinister feeling about him, as if he was always plotting some wicked scheme. His cultivation was not high, just first-order Dao source realm, but the air about him made it apparent he had a strong background. This man was the current young palace master of Flying Saint Palace, Ning Yuanshu. Ever since the last young palace master of Flying Saint Palace, Ning Yuancheng, suffered from a sudden death, his younger brother, Ning Yuanshu, had assumed the role of young palace master. Two third-order Dao source realm masters were standing separately on either side of Ning Yuanshu. One of them was expressionless and seemed to be resting his mind with his eyes closed, while the other one appeared like an old man but radiated a strong vitality. They were the left and right protectors of Flying Saint Palace, Gao Shan and Lu Shui. Gao Shan was left protector while Lu Shui was right protector. Both of them were proficient in sound-based techniques and had mysterious combination skills that were incredibly powerful. At this moment, Ning Yuanshu was savoring the spirit fruits on the table with a smile on his face. Below him, the former Maplewood City Vice City Lord, Zhuang Pan, was staring coldly at a man, his facial expression filled with contempt and arrogance. The person that he was staring at was Duan Yuanshan. Beside Duan Yuanshan was Drunkard, who developed a red flush in his face and was most likely drunk. His eyes seemed glossy and drifted around the hall as his gaze floated about his surroundings. Is there some reason young palace master has summoned both of us here? Duan Yuanshan cupped his fists and asked unhappily. Anyone would be pissed if their home was suddenly intruded on by outsiders and taken over. However, considering that both Protector Gao Shan and Protector Lu Shui were present and represented Flying St. Palace, Duan Yuanshan did not dare to resist and could only allow them to occupy the city lord's mansion, which was supposed to symbolize the pride of a city lord. These days, he and Drunkard had tried their best to live in simplicity and stay out of worldly affairs. But Ning Yuanshu had asked for them today. Obviously, there is a reason for you to be summoned. However, don't you see that young palace master is currently enjoying his spirit fruit? Just stand there and wait quietly. Zhuang Pan rebuked sharply. Just a few months ago, he had a conflict with Yang Kai during which the spirituality of his precious artifact was all but destroyed and he had personally been injured. At the time, though, Duan Yuanshan did not help him and instead took Yang Kai's side to reprimand him. Zhuang Pan loathed Duan Yuanshan. So now that he had the chance to repay the humiliation from back then, he took full advantage of it. Goo! Drunkard gave out a loud burp without any warning, filling the air with a strong smell of alcohol. Ning Yuanshu, who was seated at the head of the hall, frowned as he lost the mood to savor his food and unpleasantly dropped them. Sir City Lord, gee, why does this old man, hear a dog barking? He could only finish his one sentence in a few divided sections, looking so sloppy that it was embarrassing just looking at him. You? His words and actions enraged Zhuang Pan. It was impossible for him to not understand that Drunkard was insulting him. But Ning Yuanshu waved his hand to stop his clamor. Seeing this, Zhuang Pan did not dare to continue his sentence and instead just glared at Drunkard with hatred. City Lord Duan. Ning Yuanshu greeted Duan Yuanshan with a slight smile. Duan Yuanshan frowned. Although Ning Yuanshu was smiling, Duan Yuanshan could not help feeling a chill down his back, like some kind of venomous snake was eyeing him. What is your command, young palace master? Duan Yuanshan asked solemnly. Father specially arranged the two protectors, Gao Shan and Lu Shui, to keep this young master company for this trip out of the palace. Given that they are the strongest masters aside from my lord father in our palace, they actually shouldn't be dispatched for such a simple errand. So, City Lord Duan, do you know why they are here? He grinned lightly. Duan Yuanshan thought to himself, what does that have to do with me? It was your old man who sent some men to protect you. Also, don't young masters like you always have some bodyguards with them when they are out for a trip? Even though he thought so, he simply replied, I don't know. Heh. Ning Yuanshu laughed softly. Of course they are here to keep me safe. Duan Yuanshan's face darkened and he showed an expression that seemed to scream, are you messing with me? If this question was that simple, why did you even ask in the first place? As expected, Ning Yuanshu suddenly continued. Lord Father said that the public order in Maplewood City is quite bad. Duan Yuanshan frowned and asked, where did such a rumor spawn from? This Duan has governed Maplewood City for many years now, and although the cultivators in the city might not be the kindest or easiest to get along with, killing and robbing rarely happen here. Regarding the statement about the public order here being bad, please forgive this Duan for not being able to agree. Really? Ning Yuanshu smiled slightly, but sinisterly stared at Duan Yuanshan. Then, may I ask, how did my elder brother die? Duan Yuanshan shivered and frowned. What does young palace master mean? Heh. Ning Yuanshu laughed and said, my eldest brother, Ning Yuanchang, City Lord Duan. Don't you know him? Duan Yuanshan was silent. Of course, he knew Ning Yuanchang. When the divine spirit appeared last time, Ning Yuanchang had brought an entourage to Maplewood City. Duan Yuanshan also knew that Ning Yuanchang participated in an auction fair that he had organized. Ning Yuanshu said, as far as I know, my eldest brother went missing after he participated in your auction fair in Maplewood City. Although no corpse was found, his life lamp, which was placed in the palace, shattered, so obviously, something tragic happened to him. Even if the location of his disappearance was not in Maplewood City, it should not be far from here. Should City Lord Duan not give me an explanation? Duan Yuanshan looked uncertain. He thought that the other party was about to settle accounts with him. Although Ning Yuancheng's death had nothing to do with him, and he didn't even know anything about it. The last time he showed up in Maplewood City, he had a bad encounter. In any case, Maplewood City should at least be a bit responsible. If Flying St. Palace was really trying to hold him accountable, Duan Yuanshan would have no way out. Seeing his ugly face, Ning Yuanshu laughed. City Lord Duan, don't panic. Speaking of this young master wants to thank you. Is the young palace master telling this Duan a joke? Duan Yuanshan looked up with a gloomy expression. Ning Yuanshu shook his head. Of course not. If my eldest brother had not encountered an accident in your Maplewood City, I would never have been appointed as young palace master in his place. City Lord Duan, this young master should be thanking you. Instead of feeling any joy, Duan Yuanshan felt chills all over. He rejoiced instead of mourning for the death of his own elder brother, excited to replace him as young palace master, and even admitted it in public. Ning Yuanshu's repulsive personality was evident. Duan Yuanshan would not dare to take people like him lightly. From above, Ning Yuanshu continued. Although that trash died, his death caused the sect to lose a lot of face, which is really heartbreaking. In addition, Elder Fu, who came to investigate the cause of my elder brother's death, also died in Maplewood City. Elder Fu was a third-order Dao Source Realm Master, a highly valuable asset to the sect. His death can't be left uninvestigated. Shouldn't City Lord Duan give me an explanation for this as well? His face gradually turned cold as he spoke the last line, and he looked at Duan Yuanshan aggressively. Elder Fu. Duan Yuanshan was startled. His face changed slightly as he thought of someone and whispered, "Is this the person the young palace master is referring to?" As he spoke, he stretched out his hand and waved forward, using his source chi to form the image of a person. Ning Yuanshu took a look and nodded. Exactly. He is Fu Sitong from my sect. Duan Yuanshan's face changed drastically and he murmured, "It turns out that he was your noble sect's elder. No wonder he had such a high cultivation." He had just suddenly recalled this person and had not really expected him to be the elder Fu that Ning Yuanshu mentioned. Duan Yuanshan was not familiar with this elder Fu. But when the demon chi wave enveloped the city, Duan Yuanshan had recruited him as a candidate to form the Black Tortoise 7 points array that the Qin family contributed. There was also another young woman with a third-order Dao Source Realm cultivation who was present at the time. Although Duan Yuanshan knew that both of them were extraordinary, he did not investigate their backgrounds. He only learned that one of them was an elder of Flying St. Palace today. He pondered for a while, cupped his fists, and continued, "If young palace master wishes to know how your elder Fu died, this Duan can say a thing or two." "Oh? Let's hear it." Ning Yuanshu frowned. Young palace master must have heard about the revival of an ancient great demon and an eruption of demon chi which occurred near Maplewood City a few months ago. He explained what had happened, including Zhuang Pan's cowardice at the last moment, abandoning everyone and fleeing. Zhuang Pan's expression turned from red to green as he was unable to refute. Gao Shan and Lu Shui both turned even more contemptuous looks towards Zhuang Pan, making the latter want to find a place to bury his head and never to show himself again. When the array broke, demon chi spread rapidly, and this Duan was unable to resist, so he escaped back to the city with the Qin family members, somehow managing to survive in the end. Elder Fu did not leave immediately but chose to stay behind. There is no way for this Duan to know what happened exactly, but since Elder Fu died, it was most likely because he was injured by the demon chi. I see. Ning Yuanshu did not show any doubt. He just pondered for a moment before positing. In that case, it's not City Lord Duan's fault, but Deacon Zhuang's? He suddenly turned his gaze to Zhuang Pan. Zhuang Pan cultivation was not low. At any rate, he had reached the Dao Source Realm, allowing him to obtain the position of Deacon, even though he only joined Flying St. Palace recently. He thought he would be making his way in the world, but he did not expect that a few words from Duan Yuanshan would cause tragedy to suddenly approach. Zhuang Pan cursed Duan Yuanshan viciously in his heart, sensing the coldness of Ning Yuanshu's gaze. However, Zhuang Pan dropped to his knees with a thud in fright, causing Duan Yuanshan and Drunkard to also look at him with contempt. Please understand, young palace master, the situation that day was definitely not what Duan Yuanshan had described. The reason why this subordinate did that was actually, he ran out of words and cold sweat dripped from his forehead. Actually what? Ning Yuanshu sneered, his eyes flickering as he questioned. You'd best give me a satisfactory explanation today. At that critical moment, like a light went off in his brain, Zhuang Pan said. This subordinate realized that nothing could be done and so rapidly retreated in order to make himself useful and serve the young palace master. After he finished speaking, he looked at Ning Yuanshu with a flattering smile. He is really good at bootlicking, Duan Yuanshan whispered to Drunkard who was next to him. I never knew that he was such a smooth talker before. Although his voice was lowered, everyone in the room was a Dao Source Realm master, so how could they not have heard him? Go! Drunkard's eyes were barely open as he was totally drunk at the moment, so all he did was burp loudly. Zhuang Pan couldn't help glaring at them fiercely, his face blotched with patches of redness, feeling humiliated. Yes, it's good that Deacon Zhuang has such loyalty. Here, have a reward. Ning Yuanshu, who was taken aback for a moment, suddenly smiled pleasantly and threw a spirit fruit to Zhuang Pan. The spirit fruit rolled along the ground and stopped right in front of Zhuang Pan. Instead of feeling humiliated, however, Zhuang Pan laughed and cupped his fists. Many thanks, young palace master, for the reward. He bent down, bowed his head, held the spirit fruit in his mouth like a dog, and ate it. Duan Yuanshan could not stand it anymore and turned his gaze away, feeling disgusted as he remembered that he had once worked with this person before. City Lord Duan. Ning Yuanshu turned his gaze to Duan Yuanshan again and said, This young master has a request. Please state it, young palace master. Ning Yuanshu began. This young master is an outsider, and as the saying goes, strong foreign dragons do not test local snakes. Since City Lord Duan still holds authority in this place, this young master hopes that City Lord Duan can help to find out the cause of the death of my eldest brother. If someone harmed him, the murderer must be found. When Duan Yuanshan was about to open his mouth to speak, Zhuang Pan stood up with an eager expression on his face and said, If young palace master wants to trace the cause of death of young Master Cheng, this subordinate does have a suspicious candidate. Oh! Ning Yuanshu looked at him in surprise. What do you know? Let's hear it. There is a little brat surnamed Yang, who had once used a certain flying ship artifact, Zhuang Pan said, and this subordinate had seen young Master Cheng use the same ship artifact before. If this subordinate is not mistaken, that little bastard surnamed Yang must know something. He could even be the one who killed young Master Cheng and stolen his wealth. Is that the case? A cold light flashed across the eyes of Ning Yuanshu's eyes. Indeed. As soon as Zhuang Pan finished speaking, Ning Yuanshu suddenly struck a palm at him, releasing a surge of source qi. Obviously, this was a powerful secret technique. Zhuang Pan was shocked, and just as he was about to react instinctively, Elder Gao Shan, who had been closing his eyes and concentrating the whole time, suddenly opened them and sent a flash of light over to envelop Zhuang Pan. Zhuang Pan suddenly stiffened in place, and the next moment, there was a muffled sound resounding from his chest. Accompanied by a scream, Zhuang Pan was sent flying and slammed heavily onto the rear wall, coughing up a mouthful of blood as he became dazed and disheveled. Young palace master. Regaining control of his body, Zhuang Pan asked in a flustered tone, Why? Ning Yuanshu coldly snorted. Why didn't you report such important news earlier? Zhuang Pan, who was dumbfounded with his jaw dropped, muttered, This subordinate thought. You thought. Ning Yuanshu looked at him coldly. Do you think this young master didn't want to find out how that trash died? Humph, although this young master despised him, he was still a member of the sect. It is highly improper for a member of the sect to have died unknowingly. The circumstances must be investigated and the murderer must be severely punished. Yes, yes, yes. It was inconsiderate of this subordinate. Zhuang Pan replied repeatedly. Where is that boy surnamed Yang now? Ning Yuanshu asked in a deep voice. I'm afraid young master will have to ask City Lord Duan about this person's whereabouts. Zhuang Pan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at Duan Yuanshan coldly, taking pleasure in his coming misfortune. Ning Yuanshu also shifted his gaze, looking aggressively at Duan Yuanshan. Duan Yuanshan frowned and said, He left Maplewood City several months ago, and this Duan doesn't know where he is now. Which sect does he belong to? And is there anyone he was close with in Maplewood City? Ning Yuanshu asked again. This Duan doesn't know which sect he was from. He came to Maplewood City 2 years ago, and he does not seem to have any relatives in the city. Inside the Qin family residence, Qin Zhaoyang rushed nervously to the back courtyard, and his face turned solemn upon seeing the scene inside. He saw a crowd gathered. Some were Eight Paths sect disciples who were living in the Qin residence, while the rest were the guards and servants of the Qin family. Although the people from Eight Paths sect weren't many, all of them had Dao Source Realm cultivations. On the other hand, the Qin family guards who were surrounding them were actually just Origin Kings or even Origin Returning Realm cultivators. Despite their inferior number, the Eight Paths sect still held the absolute advantage in terms of strength. A sense of heaviness could be felt within the atmosphere, and the air was vaguely filled with a trace of blood. Qin Zhaoyang's heavy and rapid steps alarmed everyone. The crowd of guards turned around and got excited when they saw him. Old ancestor! On the contrary, the faces of the Eight Paths sect disciples, who were being surrounded in the center, turned ugly. Qin Zhaoyang gently nodded and walked straight ahead. The crowd instantly made way, allowing him to walk unimpeded. When Qin Zhaoyang reached the center and saw what was on the ground, his eyes narrowed and anger welled up inside him. A female corpse, one that had died in a horrible manner, lay on the ground covered in blood. With just a glance, Qin Zhaoyang could recognize that she was a maidservant of the Qin family. He did not expect that this maidservant who had served him a cup of tea just a few days ago would now lie dead in front of him today. Her lifeless eyes were staring at him horrendously, as if crying out for justice. He observed the corpse and soon determined that her chest had been crushed by a great impact, causing it to cave in. There were even pieces of her internal organs vomited out of the corner of her mouth. Qin Zhaoyang's emotions became worked up as he stared at this miserable scene, and the source qi in his body began to faintly tremble. The disciples of Eight Paths sect kept looking awkwardly at each other. But there was one particular young man, who had fair skin and a handsome appearance, who was the target of the most gazes. Who did this? Qin Zhaoyang took a deep breath and broke the long period of silence. His tone seemed to be calm, but his slightly trembling voice revealed his inner unrest. While speaking, he lifted his head and swept across the people of Eight Paths sect with his eyes. They did not dare to meet eyes with him and all moved their gazes aside. Anyone who knows, step out and speak. Don't be afraid. Qin Zhaoyang bellowed, looking at the guards and maidservants of his family. One of the maidservants stepped out, biting her lips, her face pale, eyes swollen, as if she had not gotten over from the shocking scene. Suppressing her tears at this moment, she knelt down in front of Qin Zhaoyang with a puff. Old ancestor, Xiao Huan cannot rest in peace like this. Please avenge her. Stand up. Tell me what happened. Qin Zhao bent over and gave the maidservant a hand. After the maidservant got up, she lifted her head and glanced at one of the disciples of Eight Paths sect. Seeing that this man was also staring at her fiercely, her face turned pale in fright and she couldn't help letting out a scream. Qin Zhaoyang noticed this of course and laid his hand on the maidservant's shoulder, infusing a stream of pure source qi into her in order to calm her fears before speaking softly. With this old ancestor here, no one can touch you. Just speak the truth. Yes. The maidservant gently nodded and started to speak. By the order of old ancestor, Xiao Huan and this servant have been taking care of all the sir's daily needs here with all our heart and dared not to slack even in the slightest. Today, we came here to bring refreshments to a certain sir, but when we put down the platter and were about to leave, then, when she reached that part, she seemed to have recalled an unwanted memory and her tender body began to tremble, making it impossible for her to continue. Qin Zhaoyang waited patiently for her as he continued using his source qi to support her. After a while, the maidservant gradually calmed down and continued. Then that sir started to express his wicked intention, trying to force Xiao Huan and this servant to stay to serve him. We refused to do so and politely asked him to excuse us in every possible way. Then, all of a sudden, Xiao Huan let out a scream and was thrown across the courtyard. When this servant rushed to check on her, she was already. Qin Zhaoyang exerted a slight force with his hand and the maidservant passed out instantly. He then ordered a guard beside him. Help her out and give her some rest. Yes. The guard carried the maidservant and rushed out of the courtyard. Qin Zhaoyang turned to look at one of the rooms in the courtyard and saw the door of the room was broken, which was obviously caused by an impact. In combination with the maidservant's statement, he deduced that the broken door must be the result of the other maidservant, Xiao Huan, being knocked out of the room. Who lives here? Qin Zhaoyang pointed his finger to that room and cast a deadly serious gaze towards the Eight Paths sect group. Most of them looked away, with their eyes blinking, as if they knew the reason and felt embarrassed about it. But a particular man, who seemed to become angry out of shame, raised his head proudly and yelled. It was this young master. So what? As soon as he spoke, all of the Qin family guards turned their gaze towards this man, as did Qin Zhaoyang. This man was the previously mentioned disciple with fair skin and handsome appearance, a disciple of Eight Paths sect. Even under the watchful eyes of the crowd, this man showed not the slightest remorse and instead sneered. What do you want to do? Before you act, you'd best weigh your own capabilities first. Pushing his source qi, he released a second-order Dao source realm cultivation. Qin Zhaoyang was forced to fall a few steps back and the guards were even worse off, all of them seemingly feeling like they were being crushed by a mountain, showing painful expressions on their faces as their bones cracked. Although Qin Zhaoyang was suppressed by the opponent's presence, he did not flinch at all. Instead, he circulated his own strength rapidly to forcefully regain his footing and questioned in a deep voice. What are friends' intentions here? Are you planning to destroy my Qin family? Of course that is not my meaning. Don't make baseless accusations. The fair-skinned man shouted. Did you kill Xiao Huan? Qin Zhaoyang asked with his teeth gritted. The face of the white-skinned man suddenly became a bit awkward as he muttered. It wasn't intentional. She suddenly bit me and I accidentally acted and wound up killing her. But look here, look at this wound. Just imagine how hard she must have bitten me. He rolled up his sleeves and there was indeed a fresh row of teeth marks on his skin. You killed her just because of this? Qin Zhaoyang hastily took a few steps forward, his clothes flapping along with his movement. Even though the fair-skinned man's cultivation was higher than Qin Zhaoyang's, seeing the old man charging at him like a mad bull, he actually felt slightly intimidated and kept retreating, continuing to give excuses. I already said I didn't mean it. What else do you want from me? You are a cultivator too. Surely you should know that little accidents like this happen sometimes. Indeed, this old master is a proud cultivator. But this old master has never used his strength to attack an ordinary mortal who possesses no cultivation at all, much less accidentally killed such a person. Qin Zhaoyang was infuriated. Stubborn old dog. The white-skinned man became angry as well as snapped. Seems I can't reason with you. Ha ha ha. A sound of laughter suddenly interfered with the scene as a middle-aged man stepped forward and cupped his fist towards Qin Zhaoyang. Patriarch Qin, can we discuss this somewhere else? If you have anything to say it here. Qin Zhaoyang coldly rejected. The middle-aged man showed a smile of embarrassment on his face as he stared at Qin Zhaoyang. But deep down inside he was secretly cursing him for not knowing how to appreciate kindness. He knew that he had to be careful with Qin Zhaoyang now though, so after pondering for a while, he continued, Patriarch Qin, it was indeed my junior brother Lin Yun's fault for accidentally killing the maidservant of your noble family, and he is extremely regretful about what has happened. So Patriarch Qin, please have mercy on him and let these small matters be made small, shall we? Extremely regretful? Qin Zhaoyang squinted at the man named Lin Yun and sneered. Has this old master gone blind, perhaps? How come this old master cannot see the slightest regret from him at all? The middle-aged man instantly cast his eyes towards Lin Yun. Lin Yun muttered a few words in dissatisfaction, but still reluctantly lowered his head, looking demoralized. Patriarch Qin, the dead cannot be restored to life, so you cannot be thinking of asking my junior brother Lin Yun to pay for this with his life, right? The middle-aged man smiled. I dare him. Lin Yun suddenly lifted his head again and snapped. You shut up. The middle-aged man glared at Lin Yun furiously, this time forcing Lin Yun to behave slightly. The middle-aged man looked back at Qin Zhaoyang and whispered, Patriarch Qin, I will tell you the truth. My junior brother Lin is usually not an arrogant or domineering person. He is just a bit obsessed with women, which I am sad to say has led to this unfortunate accident. These days, while staying here, he has been behaving himself well, but all of a sudden he seems to have lost his self-control. I am truly speechless about this. The vice sect master has been spoiling him in the sect, but honestly, even we could not tolerate his temper sometimes. Patriarch Qin, please do not pay his indiscretion any mind. Vice sect master? Qin Zhaoyang narrowed his eyes. Vice sect master Lin Rue is his uncle. The middle-aged man explained with a faint smile. Qin Zhaoyang understood his intention. Lin Yun had someone backing him. However, even if he did not, no one in the Qin family could do anything to him with his second-order Dao source realm cultivation. Now that it was apparent that this Lin Yun had such a strong backer, Qin Zhaoyang understood that it would be impossible to have the former pay for his crime with his life. The Qin family could not risk provoking Eight Paths sect, as even though they were not a big sect, they were still 100 times stronger than the Qin family. Thinking so, Qin Zhaoyang could not help feeling downhearted and lost. A maidservant from his family was beaten to death in his own home, but even as the old ancestor, he was unable to do anything to punish the murderer. This feeling of helplessness troubled his heart. Why bother with so much nonsense? Lin Yun seemed to become impatient and shouted, Wasn't it just a maidservant? Can't we just settle this matter with some compensation? Is 100,000 source crystals good enough for you? No? Then how about 200,000? For a small family like yours, 200,000 source crystals is a huge sum of money, enough to spend for several years. Accept my offer or face the consequences. There was not even a slight trace of regret on his contemptuous face, as if the maidservant on the ground wasn't even killed by him. Hearing this, the middle-aged man did not make any attempt to stop him. Obviously, he had the same thought. It would be best if they could settle the issue like this. If not, he would not mind shedding all the pretense of cordiality and using threats to ensure this matter did not spread out later. On the opposite side, Qin Zhaoyang, who looked lost earlier, immediately became enraged. The middle-aged man hurriedly cut in. Don't lose your temper, Patriarch Qin. Although my junior brother Lin Yun's words are a bit crass, they are not unreasonable. It was clear that the middle-aged man from Eight Paths sect was trying to resolve the problem peacefully with money. Although the Qin family was no match for Eight Paths sect in terms of strength, the latter were ultimately the party at fault here, so the middle-aged man did not want to further complicate the matter and avoid the spread of rumors which might mar their reputation. Qin Zhaoyang was keeping quiet, and no one knew what was on his mind, but just by looking at him, everyone could see that his eyes were filled with unwillingness and anger. He stood there with his fists clenched so hard that the cracking sound of his bones could be heard. Even seeing this, Lin Yun continued to mock him with a smug face. Old Patriarch Qin, you better consider this carefully. One wrong decision will be enough to cost the small Qin family. He sounded gruesome, and his words were full of threat. At that moment, a voice suddenly came from outside. A human life costs just 200,000 source crystal? Ahem ahem. Just how cheaply do you value life? This person coughed softly while speaking, as if they had some serious illness. Who's there? Lin Yun was maddened and hurriedly turned to yell in the direction of the voice. Qin Yu was slowly walking over with the help of Huir from that side. She looked pale and fragile, like a small flower beaten by the storm, making everyone instinctually want to protect her. Lin Yun was dazzled, his eyes lighting up as he gazed at Qin Yu with excitement. Qin Yu was a beauty, and her current illness added a morbid sense of elegance to her countenance, bewitching Lin Yun's soul, causing him to lust after her. Just as the middle-aged man said, Lin Yun was obsessed with women. It had been almost 2 months since he came to Maplewood City, and he had been staying in the Qin residence all this time, finally losing control of his impulses and trying to take advantage of the 2 maidservants today. If it were not for him, this mess would not have happened. But when he saw Qin Yu, he instantly regretted his actions. He could not believe that he actually had the thoughts of laying his hands on plain women like those maids, which would have only brought disgrace to his status. Even if I should have any thoughts, it should be about this woman in front of me. You are. Qin Zhaoyang's expression changed dramatically as he rushed over to Qin Yu. Supporting her by her side, he quickly reprimanded. Why did you come out? Didn't old ancestor ask you to rest well? Qin Yu forced a smile. I felt like something bad was about to happen. I was worried, so I came to see. During the conversation, she took a glance at the maidservant's corpse. Seeing her terrible condition, Qin Yu's already pale face turned even paler. This young lady? Lin Yun smiled brilliantly and began speaking in a voice laced with suave. When he was about to greet Qin Yu, however, the middle-aged man glared fiercely at him and snapped, Stand back! Don't you think you've caused enough trouble already? Lin Yu was seemingly afraid of this middle-aged man, so after being reprimanded, he kept his mouth shut, looking embarrassed. Several other disciples from 8 Paths sect also could not tolerate his behavior and glared at him with a reproachful look, blaming him for not being able to restrain himself. This must be young lady Qin Yu. The middle-aged man cupped his fist and greeted Qin Yu with a faint smile. Does Senior know me? Qin Yu coughed lightly and looked at him with her watery eyes. The middle-aged man smiled lightly. When I was inquiring about the news in the city, I heard many stories about the amazing young lady of the Qin family. Seeing you today, it's clear your reputation is not undeserved. It was not common for a lady, who merely had an origin-returning realm cultivation and whose vitality was pitifully low due to some unknown severe illness, to actually face and talk freely to a person with the cultivation at the second-order Dao source realm like him. The middle-aged man could not see the slightest panic or fear in Qin Yu's eyes. More importantly, the middle-aged man sensed that Qin Yu's lifespan would be up soon. But she still looked calm and composed, as if completely unafraid. One had to know that even old masters who had lived for hundreds of years and had seen great storms in their life may not be able to carry themselves with such poise when their end was approaching. The middle-aged man could not help but gaze at her again in amazement. What young lady you meant just now? Was that our offer was too low? Even though the middle-aged man thought that Qin Yu was extraordinary, he still did not take her seriously. After all, she was just an origin-returning realm cultivator, and also just a young lady from a small family. She could catch his eyes for a bit, but to him, she did not deserve to be treated specially. So after some pleasantries, he went straight back into the topic and continued with his smile. If so, young lady Yu, please offer us your price. We 8 Paths sect are not some great sect, but we still can afford some source crystals. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Yu responded coldly, Do you think this is a business deal to be bartered and bargained over? The middle-aged man looked embarrassed and forced a smile. Young lady Yu, what you mean is, life is priceless, Qin Yu shouted. The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and in a much colder tone than before, he asked, Please speak clearly, young lady Yu. I'm afraid I don't understand your meaning here. He had gradually lost his patience. Even though the issue was indeed caused by Lin Yun, he was still a second-order Dao Source Realm Master and had already lowered his status and showed much respect to them, hoping that they would accept his courtesy and give everyone a way out. However, not only was the old ancestors of this Qin family acting stubborn, even this junior was reluctant to let this matter drop, which of course annoyed him greatly. Despite the massive gap between their strengths, the middle-aged man still gave them massive face by negotiating with them politely. but their persistent decline of his offer had made him feel humiliated instead. A life for a life. That is the principle of heaven and earth, Qin Yu declared. What? The middle-aged man's face changed. He really did not expect Qin Yu to make such a ridiculous request. Lin Yun jumped up in shock and snapped, "Woman, are you crazy? How dare you ask for the life of this young master? How can you even compare the life of a single piece of trash with this young master's life? Do you have some kind of death wish? Watch your mouth, you bastard." Qin Zhaoyang burst out with anger and cursed him when he heard that this good-for-nothing actually dared to insult Qin Yu. Lin Yu laughed with overwhelming anger as he kept nodding his head. Good, good, good. Everyone in this small family has guts. Today, this young master shall teach you some proper manners. He released his source chi while speaking, getting ready to attack. Fool! The middle-aged man suddenly burst out at Lin Yun as he ground his teeth and shouted, "What do you think you're doing?" Lin Yun was dumbfounded and pointed at Qin Zhaoyang and Qin Yu. "You heard them, right? Isn't it obvious what I'm going to do?" The middle-aged man's face darkened as he sent his voice directly into Lin Yun's ear. "Killing them is easy, and even if bad rumors spread out, our sect will just lose some reputation at most. It's impossible for anyone to stand up for this small family and disturb our Eight Paths sect. Then what are you worried about?" Lin Yun was confused. He did not understand why the middle-aged man stopped him. "Are you trying to alarm that person? Do you know what would happen to you if you alarmed him for something like this?" The middle-aged man looked at him coldly. Lin Yun's expression changed after hearing this. That person the middle-aged man mentioned seemed to be a terrifying existence to Lin Yun, and his face quickly turned pale just hearing about him, causing his source chi to completely deflate. This scene was imprinted into the eyes of Qin Yu and Qin Zhaoyang. They did not know what kind of secret conversation was held between the two of Eight Paths sect disciples, but they were surprised that it actually caused the flames of Lin Yun's anger to be doused. The middle-aged man turned back to Qin Yu, cupped his fists and said, "Young lady Yu, regarding your last proposal, I'll pretend I did not hear that. Please ask something else." Qin Yu coughed a few times lightly. "I understand that with the strength of our Qin family, we cannot make you pay with your life. Young lady Yu understands well." The middle-aged man praised Qin Yu's wit with a faint smile. Qin Yu instantly continued, "Although we are incapable of avenging Xiao Huan, she was still a servant of our Qin family, and we can't just let her die unreasonably. As a matter of course, we can't continue to entertain her enemies in the Qin residence anymore. All of you, leave." Everyone from Eight Paths sect was stunned at her words, staring at Qin Yu with bulging eyes and funny faces. The middle-aged man let out a dry cough after a long silence. "What young lady you just said, do you mean?" Qin Yu answered, "Am I still not clear enough for you? We, the Qin family, no longer welcome you here. What's more, we will not forget this grudge and will one day avenge Xiao Huan's death." She looked straight into his eyes while speaking, with no intention to set her gaze aside. The face of the middle-aged man was getting colder and colder, while the other disciples of Eight Paths sect did not look much better. A breeze swept through the courtyard, and the bloody stench in the air became even stronger. The middle-aged man stared at Qin Yu with his sharp eyes. After remaining silent for a long time, he responded, "Young lady Yu, are you serious?" The corner of his mouth twitched as he spoke, seemingly not having expected things to develop to this point. If they were really being kicked out from the Qin residence by Qin Yu, where would the dignity of Eight Paths sect be? More importantly, if they were driven away like this matter would definitely alarm the person that he feared the most. When that person demanded an explanation, what was he supposed to say? He certainly could not disclose this matter to that person, about how Lin Yun accidentally killed a maidservant of another family, but they could not take revenge, so they wanted to expel Eight Paths sect from their residence. If he really said so, he was sure that neither he nor Lin Yun would have good ends. That person was not easy to deal with. "Do I look like I'm joking to you?" Qin Yu gently bit her red lips, refusing to budge. The middle-aged man unexpectedly closed his eyes and spoke slowly. "Young lady Yu, can you make an exception for this? We can't leave the Qin residence yet for reasons I cannot share. Without waiting for Qin Yu's response, he immediately raised his finger in the sky and shouted, 1 million of source crystals. Okay? After the shout, Lin Yun and the others changed their faces drastically. Their voices cracked. Senior brother, are you serious? 1 million of source crystals was not a small number. Even though this number was within their capability, Eight Paths sect was not a big sect and it would still be a burden to them, so if it were not a last resort, they would be unwilling to pay for so much. Thinking of this, Lin Yun exclaimed, What's done is already done. Don't keep harping on and on about a mere slave. Like it or not, we will give you 1 million source crystals, but we will not leave the Qin residence. If you have the strength to refuse, you're free to come take revenge on me any time. Scoundrels! All of you! Qin Yu stomped her feet in anger. Since the Qin family was incomparable to Eight Paths sect in strength, it was impossible to cast them out with force. If the Eight Paths sect insisted on staying, the Qin family really could do nothing about it. It was just that Qin Yu never expected that when everything had reached this point, they could still be so shameless to stay. The level of their shamelessness was unparalleled. Ha ha ha! Lin Yun cackled. Yes, this young master is a scoundrel. So what? Does young Lady Qin want to teach me a lesson? I'll give you a chance now. Come with me. Just as he finished speaking, he rushed over in front of Qin Yu with a flicker and right before everyone's eyes. He stretched out his hand to grab her shoulder. The middle-aged man saw this happen and wanted to react, but hesitated, then closed his eyes and pretended he did not see anything. He was mad that the Qin family couldn't appreciate kindness, and since they preferred to settle things through force, he simply turned a blind eye to Lin Yu's actions. Making this small family bear the consequences of standing up against them would allow them to understand who was really in charge here. Scram! Qin Zhaoyang, who was beside Qin Yu, immediately burst out at Lin Yu. Seeing Lin Yu charging towards her, Qin Zhaoyang could not just sit back and watch. Pushing his source chi madly, he sent out a palm that could crush mountains. Clearly, he was not holding back in the slightest. Lin Yun sneered, Old man, it seems you don't understand the immensity of heaven and earth. You really think that you can stop this young master with just this? He did not intend to evade and instead turned his claw into a palm and sent it out to meet Qin Zhaoyang's. A sinister force pulsed out as Lin Yun seemed to have transformed into an extremely poisonous snake, flicking its forked tongue as it sniffed its prey. Qin Zhaoyang's face changed as he understood that if this palm strike was to hit him, he would certainly not have a good end. After all, he was now old and weak. Although he was a Dao Source Realm cultivator, his remaining strength could not be compared to his prime, while on the opposite side, Lin Yun, who was still young, energetic, and possessed a second-order Dao Source Realm cultivation, was simply not someone that he could contend with. But this was a matter of Qin Yu's safety, so even though he knew he would suffer, Qin Zhaoyang did not fall back, instead pushing his source chi even more madly as he met Lin Yu's aggression head-on. Overconfidence. Lin Yun clicked his tongue and teased with his head shaking slowly. Bang! The palms touched and their intense source chi collided, releasing a powerful shockwave that kicked up a violent wind as well as sand and rock from the courtyard. Then, a shocking scene happened. The moment when the two skills clashed, surprisingly, Lin Yun's body trembled before his face changed drastically. After he let out a scream, he was thrown out while coughing up a mouthful of blood midair before slamming heavily into a building behind him, opening a big pit hole in its walls. Hong long long. There was a continuous sound of crashing in the room, as if Lin Yun could not control his momentum and was smashed through more and more walls. What? The middle-aged man and the rest of the Eight Paths sect disciples were dumbstruck as they watched this unbelievable scene with their eyes bulging. Meanwhile, the guards of the Qin family, who were initially consumed with fear despite their hatred for the enemy, were equally shocked. But soon, all of them beamed with delight and cheered triumphantly. Old ancestor, you... Qin Yu looked over in confusion. Although she could not detect Lin Yun's true cultivation, she sensed he was much stronger than the old ancestor. How did the old ancestor knock him back in just one move then? That was impossible. Qin Zhaoyang was dumbfounded too. He actually had mentally prepared himself to be critically injured as he laid his life on the line in order to keep Qin Yu safe. In any case, he would not just sit back and watch Qin Yu being captured and humiliated by Lin Yun. However, the end result surprised him greatly. But after a short moment, he seemingly realized something and turned around. There, he saw a man with a smiling face standing behind him, supporting his back with his hand while infusing him with a stream of pure and vigorous source qi. It was this man who assisted him in knocking back Lin Yun. Qin Zhaoyang's eyes lit up as he joyfully shouted, "Yang Kai!" He found that the one who quietly helped him from behind was the person that he had been waiting for to return to Maplewood City. Yang Kai. Ah! Qin Yu was startled when he heard Qin Zhaoyang's shout and turned her gaze to look in his direction. When she saw Yang Kai, she could not help covering her mouth and let out a trembling voice, "Sir Yang!" "Who?" The middle-aged man from Eight Paths sect regained his wits and bellowed, furiously glaring at Yang Kai as he shouted, "Who are you? How dare you injure our Eight Paths sect's disciple with such a treacherous trick?" Eight Paths sect. Yang Kai raised his brow after hearing this and instantly swept across the middle-aged man and the disciples of the Eight Paths sect with his eyes. However, he did not find the person that he was looking for and could not help feeling disappointed. "Are all of you disciples of Eight Paths sects?" Indeed. Seeing Yang Kai seemingly aware of their reputation, the middle-aged man became emboldened. "Who are you?" The middle-aged man couldn't hide his bewilderment while speaking. For some reason, he found Yang Kai's face to be a little familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before, but he could not remember where. Still, he did not back down and rebuked. "You have injured our Eight Paths sect's disciple. I don't care who you are. If you cannot give us an acceptable explanation, don't even think about leaving alive." He spoke with full confidence because when he scanned Yang Kai with his divine sense, he found that this boy only had a first-order Dao source realm cultivation. With this kind of strength, he didn't need to put Yang Kai in his eyes. It was just that he did not know what kind of secret technique Yang Kai had used to toy with Lin Yun together with Qin Zhaoyang. However, after some thought, the middle-aged man assumed that whatever secret technique Yang Kai used simply combined the force of two individuals, catching Lin Yun off guard. Heh! Yang Kai looked at the middle-aged man in astonishment. "I really didn't know that Eight Paths sect's disciples were so impressive. Someone who wasn't aware would believe you came from Star Soul Palace." The middle-aged man's face mixed with anger after being stung by Yang Kai's mockery, gritting his teeth and shouting, "Enough of your nonsense. Surrender yourself if you want this to end peacefully. Refuse and you cannot blame us for being impolite." Yang Kai looked at him with an odd expression and replied, "Do I know you? Why would I expect a stranger like you to treat me well? You're quite funny." He next turned to Qin Yu after that and whispered, "Does this man have a problem with his head?" Qin Yu could not hold her laughter after seeing his hilarious face. However, Qin Zhaoyang frowned. He knew that Yang Kai was no ordinary person, otherwise he would not have given him the entry quota to the Four Seasons realm, but he was not sure if Yang Kai could handle the situation here given that there were so many masters on the opposite side, making him feel a bit anxious. "Little brat, it seems like you can't wait to die," the middle-aged man exclaimed in anger. "Stop shouting already." Yang Kai gave him a disdainful look. "You're embarrassing both of us." Yang Kai ignored the middle-aged man after that, and turned to Qin Zhaoyang. "What's going on here? I only vaguely heard something about 1,000,000 source crystals after I arrived. Explain it to me, please." He was telling the truth. After receiving the tribulation fruit from Azure Sun Temple, Yang Kai rushed to Maplewood City without rest. But as soon as he entered the city, he sensed that there was something wrong as there were too many powerful masters present compared to when he left. Upon reaching the Qin residence, Yang Kai happened to see the scene where Qin Yu was trying to drive away some strangers. But since he was unaware of the circumstances, he decided to observe the situation first. Only after he saw Lin Yu lash out did Yang Kai reveal himself in order to help Qin Zhaoyang. After being asked by Yang Kai, Qin Zhaoyang glared at the middle-aged man resentfully and succinctly explained what had happened just now. Yang Kai kept silent as he listened, and only after he understood did he lift his head and address the middle-aged man. "So basically, the story is like this. The Qin family treated all of you well, but one of you killed their servant, and not only did you not feel sorry or even admit your mistake, you instead used your sex strength to try to seize their residence and even tried to abduct the Qin family's young lady. The middle-aged man could not help falling quiet as he was powerless to refute Yang Kai's assertions. TSK. Such tyrannical actions are simply outrageous, Yang Kai said in contempt. The middle-aged man took a deep breath and said, this one had already offered 1,000,000 source crystals to settle this matter, but they did not appreciate my kindness. Good. Yang Kai raised his brow. According to friend then, 1,000,000 source crystals is enough to buy a life, and anyone who refuses such an offer would be rejecting kindness. Right? During his speech, he immediately waved his hand. In an instant, a hill of source crystals piled up in the courtyard. There were countless source crystals in this pile, numbering at least 10 million. The disciples of Eight Paths sect, despite not having poor backgrounds, were still dazzled by this hill of source crystals. All of them were staring at it and gulped as they wished they could run up and snatch them. Qin Zhaoyang and the rest were even more dumbfounded, as they did not understand what Yang Kai was up to. Come. Yang Kai enthusiastically beckoned to the disciples of Eight Paths sect with a bright smile on his face. Be my guest. Everyone take 1,000,000 source crystals, not one more or less. All of a sudden, the atmosphere of the conversation changed as the smile on Yang Kai's face turned into a gloomy sneer as he continued. Once you take them, I'll kill all of you. Dang. All of the Eight Paths sect disciples took a few steps back, looking at Yang Kai in shock, and one of them even shouted, Are you making a joke? Although 1,000,000 source crystals was no small sum, one still needed to be alive to enjoy them. What was the point of taking source crystals when they didn't have their life? The face of the middle-aged man grew even more somber as, at this point, he fully understood Yang Kai's intentions. Yang Kai clearly wanted to treat him the way he had been treating the Qin family. After he understood this, he could not help sneering. I see that you are not from the Qin family, so why wade into this muddy water? We can still be friends if you step away now. Who wants to be friends with you? Yang Kai sneered. Just accept my offer. Or don't you understand how to appreciate kindness? The middle-aged man raged at this taunt. It looks like we have nothing left to say. Piercing light. 9 frozen heavens. The middle-aged man was a decisive person, so seeing that there was no room for negotiation, he decided to strike first. Swiftly summoning a snow-white sword into his hand, he held it up and condensed a frigid light around it, one that seemed capable of penetrating deep into one's soul and freezing the world around it. The complexions of the disciples of Eight Paths sect changed slightly as they hastily retreated. Obviously, they understood how powerful this move was. Qin Zhaoyang hurriedly grabbed Qin Yu and retreated with her while the Qin family guards and servants also cleared out in an instant, not wanting to get involved in this fight. Sword Qi swirled, and with a flick of his wrist, the middle-aged man surrounded himself in sword light and charged straight towards Yang Kai. Freezing the air, he passed through into ice. Ha. Yang Kai stood on the spot, grinning mockingly as he stared down his approaching opponent with utter contempt, not even attempting to dodge. Seeing Yang Kai acting so confident and arrogant, the middle-aged man could not help feeling stunned as a faint unease filled his heart. How dare a small fly like you act so presumptuous in front of this young master? Yang Kai's grin turned into a sneer, and with a flicker, he disappeared. The next instant, he reappeared right in front of the middle-aged man and stretched out a finger towards him. On the tip of his finger was a flash of golden light, one condensed from extremely dense and pure source qi. Dang! With a soft ring, the middle-aged man's face changed wildly as he froze mid-air, his eyes bulging as he stared in horror as his full-powered strike was blocked by his opponent's finger. Even more horrifying was that Yang Kai's finger, made of flesh and blood, was completely unharmed despite it clashing with a sword artifact. In fact, looking closely, it was the middle-aged man's sword that appeared to be dented from this clash. As the middle-aged man stood flabbergasted, his sword gave a final tremble before the ice-cold aura surrounding it finally dissipated. How can that be? The middle-aged man exclaimed, his eyes threatening to pop out of their sockets. He released his divine sense once again to investigate Yang Kai's cultivation, but he could only sense he was a first-order Dao Source Realm Junior, a minor realm lower than himself. However, this power shown by Yang Kai was definitely not what a first-order Dao Source Realm cultivator should have. Yang Kai's mind-boggling abilities completely left him at a loss as he felt he was now in deep trouble. Luo Yuan was one thing, but you're not my opponent. When Yang Kai snorted coldly, the intensity of the source qi on his fingertip suddenly increased drastically, releasing a golden flash of light as it shot forward. You know junior brother Luo? The middle-aged man trembled as he stared at Yang Kai in amazement. All of a sudden a realization dawned on him as he exclaimed, "You're Yang Kai! Yang Kai from the Four Seasons realm." He seemed to finally recall something and yelled in surprise. As soon as this shout rang out, the golden light swallowed him, and the middle-aged man screamed in agony as he was shot out and smashed into the ground, opening up a giant pit inside of which he writhed in pain. Yang Kai! The same Yang Kai from the Four Seasons realm? Yes, it's him. It's definitely him. No wonder he looked so familiar. Nearby, the disciples of Eight Paths sect all yelled in panic. It was only at this moment that they finally recognized Yang Kai, who outsmarted and overpowered all the Southern Territories' geniuses with his extraordinary treasure pills in the Four Seasons realm. During the incident in Four Seasons realm, while Yang Kai was carrying out his exchange, some of them had been watching from a distance. They did not dare to get too close because Luo Yuan was already present at that time, and therefore it took them until now to recognize his face. It was not until the middle-aged man's realization that everyone else realized Yang Kai's identity. At once, all of them paled and began leaking cold sweat. Although they had never fought against Yang Kai, they knew what happened in the Four Seasons realm. Even rising stars like Wu Chang, Luo Yuan, and several others were unable to touch a single hair on Yang Kai's, so it need not be mentioned what their chances were. The most recent opening of the Four Seasons realm had been the debut of two new rising stars. One of them was Luo Yuan from their Eight Paths sect, who was an equal match against Wu Chang of Heavenly Martial Holy Land, a genius whose strength could not be underestimated. The other was Yang Kai, possessing only a first-order Dao Source Realm cultivation. He was also a Dao Source-grade alchemist who had refined the extraordinary treasure pills and toyed with all the masters in the Four Seasons realm like they were children. It was safe to say that even if the reputations of these two rising stars weren't on par with those of Xiaoshang, Wu Chang, and Xiao Chen, they were not far behind. This was also the reason that while other small families in Maplewood City were hosting disciples from 2 or 3 sects, the Qin family only hosted Eight Paths sect. Because of Luo Yuan, the cultivators from other sects dared not to provoke them. Luo Yuan wasn't even afraid of Wu Chang. In this world, besides Emperor Realm Master, who else would he fear? Hi! The middle-aged man from Eight Paths sect was knocked over by Yang Kai but did not suffer any mortal injuries, so he stood up quickly as he coughed and looked over at Yang Kai in fear, gritting his teeth as he cupped his fists. This one had failed to recognize Grandmaster Yang. Please do not take offense. His cultivation was higher than Yang Kai's, and he was also older than Yang Kai, so addressing Yang Kai as senior or sir would be too humiliating to himself. However, concerned that Yang Kai would be displeased if addressed him as brother, the middle-aged man settled on calling him Grandmaster. In any case, the other party was a Dao Source-grade alchemist, so it wasn't an inappropriate title. What? Qin Zhaoyang was shocked as he stared at the middle-aged man, amazed at how this man could be so arrogant before but changed his attitude so quickly, and was addressing Yang Kai so respectfully in a blink of an eye, even calling him Grandmaster. There was a strange light glimmering in Qin Yu's beautiful eyes as it seemed she was thinking of something. What's so strange? Yang Kai grinned. Grandmaster Yang, please be forgiving. The middle-aged man smiled. Yang Kai changed his tone and said coldly, Is there a need to be forgiving with a dead man? The smile on the middle-aged man's face froze as a chill crept up his spine. Hurriedly, he said, Grandmaster Yang, what happened today is indeed my junior brother Lin's fault. Of course he is in the wrong. Yang Kai snorted coldly. But please, Grandmaster Yang, Please consider that junior brother Lin has learned his lesson and give him a chance to repent. He pleaded earnestly. A life for a life. I only knocked him out just now, and you call that a lesson? Yang Kai sneered sarcastically. Are the lives of others only worth this much to you? Sweat beaded on his forehead as he saw Yang Kai's unrelenting posture. Gritting his teeth, the middle-aged man painfully and anxiously said, Just so Grandmaster Yang knows, junior brother Lin Yun is the nephew of Vice Sect Master Lin Rue. He brought up Lin Rue in hopes that Yang Kai would be aware of the dangers of pushing the situation further and would thus spare Lin Yun's life. However, Yang Kai just snorted. Lin Rue? What thing is he? Why should I care what he thinks? The middle-aged man turned pale, realizing that matters would not end well today. In any case, I will have to kill someone today. It can either be you or that guy over there who fainted. Yang Kai flicked his wrist and summoned the myriad sword into his hand. Instantly, the air filled with emperor pressure as the emperor aura sword rippled with intimidating energy. Lifting the large myriad sword towards the middle-aged man, Yang Kai shouted, You choose! As he spoke, he raised the corner of his mouth slightly and sneered. Would you like to die in place of that guy? Since he's the nephew of your Vice Sect Master, if you die for him, perhaps your precious Vice Sect Master will take good care of your family after you're gone. I. The middle-aged man backed away as he babbled incoherently, trembling at the mere sight of the myriad sword in Yang Kai's hand. Although he had never seen an emperor artifact before, he knew that this great sword was an extraordinary weapon. He also knew that Yang Kai was not joking. The murderous intent in Yang Kai's eyes was clear and unmistakable. However, although Lin Yun held great status in Eight Paths Sect, how could he be willing to die in his place? If you refuse to choose, I'll decide myself. Yang Kai snorted lightly before he turned to Qin Zhaoyang. Patriarch Qin, they killed one of your clan. I will consider it as revenge for the clan by using the Qin family's artifact for the execution. Is that all right? Absolutely. Qin Zhaoyang shouted heavily. Please go ahead, Brother Yang. Yang Kai nodded lightly and he lifted up the myriad sword. Just as he was about to perform a strike though, his expression changed and he turned his eyes towards the sky and curled his lips. Since you've come, you should just show yourself. Why bother hiding? There's someone else? Qin Zhaoyang's complexion changed as he quickly looked in that direction, but saw nothing, becoming somewhat suspicious. A moment later, a wave of ripples appeared in the void and two figures suddenly appeared. It was a man and a woman. The man was a youth with a cold, aloof face, as if everything and everyone was beneath him. The woman was petite and cute with a round face. She stood quietly behind the young man. Her beautiful eyes were always on his back, as if there was nothing else in the world apart from him in her world. It's him. Qin Zhaoyang's expression turned gloomy. He immediately recognized this man and woman as the lead disciples of Eight Paths Sect and the one who brought this middle-aged man and the other disciples of Eight Paths Sect to the Qin family. Since the day they arrived, this young man had entered closed-door cultivation, and it was rumored in the Qin family residence that he was cultivating frantically without even taking any time to rest. Qin Zhaoyang also knew that this person was named Luo Yuan, one of the rising stars, just like Yang Kai, who appeared in the Four Seasons realm. The round-faced woman, on the other hand, seemed to be the daughter of Eight Paths Sect's sect master, and she was hopelessly enamored with Luo Yuan. Since they arrived, she had been guarding his courtyard, never taking a step away. It was a pity that this was just unrequited love, however, as it was quite clear from Luo Yuan's attitude, he did not return her affection. Junior brother Luo, young lady. The middle-aged man was overjoyed when he saw these two people appearing. But soon he seemed to have thought of something and became horrified. Luo Yuan glanced at him lightly and frowned. You're quite noisy. His words silenced all the members of Eight Paths Sect, their faces paling, as if they were extremely afraid of Luo Yuan. It was the truth, though. In Eight Paths Sect, everyone, including the sect master and vice sect master, was afraid of Luo Yuan. The sect master had once said that Luo Yuan was a one-in-a-billion genius and that one day he would gain fame and reputation across the star field, rising above all others. so everyone in the sect had never said no to any of his requests, big or small. The hope of bringing glory to the sect was all pinned on Luo Yuan. Luo Yuan's words were equivalent to the words of the sect master. He occupied the best cave mansion in the sect and was given nearly half of the cultivating resources available. When he was cultivating, no one dared to interfere unless they wanted to die. This was also the biggest reason why the disciples of Eight Paths sect did not want to magnify the issue before. They did not want to disturb Luo Yuan, who knew that he was still alarmed in the end. The disciples of Eight Paths sect were both terrified and delighted, terrified that Luo Yuan might punish them for putting him in a bad mood, while on the other hand, delighted that a strong backup had come to rescue them out of trouble. "Ah, it's you." At that moment, the round-faced woman who had been standing behind Luo Yuan came back to her senses and broke her obsessive gaze away from Luo Yuan. She looked around with a frown and cried out when her eyes met Yang Kai. "You are that..." She could not remember Yang Kai's name. Yang Kai smiled slightly. "Yang Kai. Yes, you are the one who exchanged an extraordinary treasure pill with me in the Four Seasons realm. Why are you here?" The round-faced woman recalled her last encounter with Yang Kai. "Why can't I be here?" Yang Kai was amused. The round-faced woman tilted her head and thought, silently agreeing that the question she asked was a bit nonsensical. She then smiled at him and did not speak again. Luo Yuan's gaze was locked on Yang Kai, a boundless fighting intent suddenly flashing across his eyes that were originally as quiet and still as water. Yang Kai grinned. "How long have you been here?" Luo Yuan said lightly. "Not too long." After a pause, he added, "I was alerted when you summoned that artifact in your hand. Then I came and saw that you wanted to kill a disciple from my sect." He carried an indifferent tone as he spoke, but the annoyance and coldness were clear in his words. No matter what, he was still a disciple of Eight Paths sect, so he could not just sit back and watch a fellow disciple get killed. The middle-aged man was overjoyed and shouted hurriedly, "Junior brother Luo, this person who thinks he's unbeatable is disrespecting our sect. Not only did he attack junior brother Lin Yun, but he also wounded me. Junior brother Luo, please seek justice for us." He changed his previous yes-man attitude towards Yang Kai and became extremely arrogant, feeling secure and confident now that he had a backer here. "Really?" Luo Yuan frowned and looked at Yang Kai coldly. Yang Kai smiled. I knocked out the one lying there, and I hurt the one who spoke earlier." "How bold of you!" Luo Yuan raised the corners of his mouth. "This is what men should be like. I admire you. Is brother Luo going to stand up for them?" Yang Kai looked at him with a smile. "There's a secret technique that I have been cultivating recently, but I seem to have reached a bottleneck, and closed-door meditation has been fruitless to break through it." Luo Yuan suddenly talked about an irrelevant topic, but the scorching intent in his eyes intensified as he spoke. The source qi in his body trembled as he shouted in a low voice. "I was still worried that I could not find a worthy opponent here in this pathetic countryside, but it's perfect now that Brother Yang is here. Do you want to use me to break through the bottleneck of your secret technique?" Yang Kai looked at him oddly. Indeed, from the posture he assumed, regardless of whether Yang Kai agreed or not, he was going to make a move. Yang Kai frowned. Luo Yuan was no ordinary cultivator, not to mention that he was already a third-order Dao source realm. His extraordinary combat power alone should not be underestimated. If it was not necessary, Yang Kai would rather not get into a fight with him. They were still in the Qin residence, and fighting a battle here would definitely flatten at least a third of this place, while also likely wounding the already weak Qin Yu and the others. Yang Kai was not as unscrupulous as Luo Yuan and would not act without giving any consideration to others. "Stop!" At this moment, Qin Yu suddenly yelled. Luo Yuan paused. A look of displeasure flashed across his face as he shouted in a low voice, "Who are you?" There was a murderous intent on his face as he looked extremely unhappy being interrupted by Qin Yu. If he was not actively suppressing himself, he likely would have killed her already. Qin Yu said, "Qin family Qin Yu." Luo Yuan retracted his murderous intent upon hearing this and muttered, "So you are the owner of this place, huh?" A frown appeared on his face as he fell silent for a time before asking, What is it you want to say? His murderous look before had subsided, and it was replaced with a cold but still polite posture, surprising Yang Kai greatly. I would never presume to tell you what to do. You are strong after all, and the Qin family is weak, Qin Yu said sarcastically. It's just that a disciple of your Eight Paths sect killed a servant from our family. So shouldn't your excellency give us an explanation first? Killed a servant from your family? Luo Yuan's face became cold. Such a thing happened? The body is still here. Can you not see it? Qin Yu ground her teeth. Luo Yuan turned his gaze to the female corpse in the courtyard and frowned before he gazed towards the middle-aged man and asked, What happened? The middle-aged man was flustered and did not know how to answer. He stammered and was unable to say anything. I will count to 3. If you have not answered by then, you know the consequences. Luo Yuan's expression became colder. 1. The middle-aged man suddenly shuddered and began rapidly explaining what had happened without leaving out any details or adding any inflammatory remarks. After hearing what had happened, Luo Yuan thoughtfully said, So, Brother Yang made a move because of this? Yes? The middle-aged man glanced at Yang Kai and nodded in agreement, not daring to falsely accuse Yang Kai. I understand now. Luo Yuan nodded before his figure flickered, and he shot into a nearby ruined room. When he emerged once more, he was carrying the fainted Lin Yun in his hand. Yang Kai looked at him with interest, uncertain how Luo Yuan would deal with Lin Yun and what kind of explanation he would give the Qin family. You're the young lady of the Qin family, right? Luo Yuan looked at Qin Yu and said lightly, Since he was the murderer, watch carefully. Luo Yuan then madly poured his source qi in the hand holding Lin Yun's neck. In an instant, Lin Yun swelled up and his skin turned blood red. Yang Kai's eyes narrowed, secretly amazed. The faces of the disciples from the Eight Paths sect filled with shock as the middle-aged man cried out, Junior brother Luo, don't. Lin Yun woke up from his unconsciousness in severe pain at that moment. But he was still a little dazed and had no clue what was happening. The sight which greeted him, however, was Luo Yuan's face, so Lin Yun couldn't help calling out in shock, Luo, senior brother Luo. Luo Yuan nodded casually before increasing the strength of his grip as he poured more source qi into him. Ah! Lin Yun screamed, realizing that something was wrong. Don't, pang! With a loud explosion, Lin Yun popped in Luo Yuan's hands and turned into a blood mist that scattered across the sky. However, even though Luo Yuan stood right next to him, he remained completely spotless. Silence filled the courtyard. The entire Qin family stood frozen in place while the disciples from Eight Paths sect looked at each other in shock, none of them daring to take a breath. No one expected that Luo Yuan would kill Lin Yun just like that. Weren't they fellow brothers from the same sect? Wasn't Lin Yun the nephew of Eight Paths sect's vice sect master? Everyone was flabbergasted by the cruel and cold-blooded brutality of Luo Yuan. Are you satisfied with this explanation, young lady Qin? Luo Yuan looked at Qin Yu. Qin Yu gritted her teeth, satisfied. The murderer had died in front of her eyes. What else could she say? A life for a life. Luo Yuan actually fulfilled this condition, so there was nothing left for her to complain about. Good. Luo Yuan nodded lightly, disregarding what other people thought as he turned back to Yang Kai. Brother Yang, let's begin. Yang Kai was flummoxed. Begin? Begin what? Can you not control yourself a bit more? Do you just want to fight and kill all day? Qin Zhaoyang thought that Yang Kai was afraid of Luo Yuan, so he hurriedly stepped up. Little brother Luo, since we have settled the matter and the murderer had paid the price, let's sit down and have a good chat. This old master will offer his best hospitality. Luo Yuan ignored him and continued to focus his attention on Yang Kai. Brother Yang, you are disappointing. What happened to your domineering madness in the Four Seasons realm? How can you reach the peak of the martial Tao if you shy away from challenges? The peak of the martial Tao? Yang Kai curled his lips fiercely. I am only a first-order Tao source realm now. Isn't it too early to start thinking about such things? A successful person is always far-sighted. Luo Yuan said, Brother Yang, you shouldn't be so short-sighted. Yang Kai said seriously. Wrong, wrong. It's all wrong. Luo Yuan asked unexpectedly. What's wrong? Yang Kai replied. I think it's only right to be realistic, to take one step forward at a time instead of reaching out for something that is beyond one's grasp. Luo Yuan frowned. If one has no ambitious goals, how can they move forward? He looked like he was preparing to debate with Yang Kai to get his way. So Yang Kai responded impatiently. Let's just agree to disagree and mind our own business. I want to fight Brother Yang now. You're still not giving up. Yang Kai stood forward immediately and snapped. What's the point of fighting against me? With the abilities I possess, you can't even touch a single hair on my head. Luo Yuan was taken aback and suddenly recalled that Yang Kai was proficient in the Tao of space. Back in the Four Seasons realm, Yang Kai had been able to utterly ignore all of the powerful masters targeting him precisely because no one below the Emperor realm could stop him from coming or going as he pleased. Luo Yuan really may not be able to even touch a hair on Yang Kai. Don't run. Luo Yuan thought for a while and proposed. Let's have a passionate, bloody fight like real men. Everyone looked anxious. Yang Kai looked at him disrespectfully and sneered. Have you gone stupid from cultivating too hard? Why shouldn't I use all of my abilities in a fight? Silence! The round-faced woman who kept standing behind Luo Yen suddenly frowned and yelled at Yang Kai. Don't speak ill of senior brother Luo. Brother Yang. Luo Yang bellowed at Yang Kai. Let's fight. Yang Kai face-bombed, feeling speechless about this man. At this moment, the surrounding atmosphere changed again. With the sound of whistling in the air, the figures of many masters appeared from all directions and all of them cast their eyes on Yang Kai's myriad sword as soon as they arrived. After their attentive observation, their eyes glowed in greed. They were certainly alerted by the emperor pressure of this emperor artifact. So they all came from their places to examine it, and after seeing the myriad sword, they naturally coveted it. The people who came here were basically third-order Tao Source Realm Masters, while there were no emperors present. Even if a cultivator of their level had seen an emperor artifact occasionally, it was still just a glimpse and none ever had a chance to possess one. But now, to their surprise, an emperor artifact appeared in a small Maplewood city, and it was a sword-type artifact that specialized in killing. They scanned with their divine senses and could not help feeling delighted when they found Yang Kai was just a first-order Tao Source Realm cultivator. Luo Yang frowned involuntarily, displeased at the sight of newcomers. Pushing his source chi, he created a visible ripple in the air with him as its center that served as a warning blast to the surroundings. All of you scram. He let out a burst of anger at these people who were interfering with his battle with Yang Kai. Dang dang dang. Those people who came, regardless of cultivation or age, were deterred by this display of power and presence and quickly retreated a certain distance away in fear. Not to mention that everyone recognized Luo Yuan due to his recent rise in fame, even if they did not, and after seeing the power he just released, they knew that he was not an ordinary third-order Tao Source Realm cultivator, so why would they play with fire? However, two among them remained where they stood, unintimidated by Luo Yuan. The two were both elderly men. One of them looked as if he was meditating with his eyes closed, completely ignoring the presence of Luo Yuan, turning a deaf ear to him, while the other just sneered as a light flashed across his eyes, as if mocking Luo Yuan for his overconfidence. These two were Flying Saint Palace's left and right protectors, Gao Shan and Lu Shui. The two protectors had been staying in the City Lord's mansion earlier, guarding young Palace Master Ning Yuanshu. But as soon as they sensed the Emperor pressure released by an Emperor artifact, they asked Ning Yuanshu for permission and hurried over. They just happened to arrive just as Luo Yuan was unleashing his anger. Young man, you should not become angered so easily. Protector Lu Shui grinned at Luo Yang with a proud and aloof attitude fitting for a senior. You'll be hurt if you act so recklessly. Humph! Protector Gao Shan opened his eyes and snorted coldly. Youngsters nowadays really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. They don't put the heroes of the world in their eyes just because they have a little capability. One day, that arrogance will get you in trouble. Two seniors are wise. Yang Kai looked at them with a humble face and nodded repeatedly, cupping his fist as he greeted them. This junior couldn't agree more with the words two seniors spoke. I believe these two seniors must not be ordinary men to be able to speak like this. It's nothing. Lu Shui smiled at Yang Kai, finding this little brat quite pleasing to his eyes. Those who are willing to be taught will be successful. Gao Shan did not hesitate to praise too. May this junior ask for these two seniors' honored names? Yang Kai asked with a respectful look. Old Master Gao Shan. Old Master Lu Shui. The two of them answered one after another, then spoke in unison. We are the left and right protectors of Flying St. Palace. Their introduction seemed to have gone through many drills, and they spoke their lines proficiently without any pauses. Flying St. Palace? Yang Kai's face changed as he responded in amazement. I can't believe these two seniors are the famous protectors Gao Shan and Lu Shui, who are famous throughout the whole southern territory. Looking at the face of Yang Kai, Gao Shan and Lu Shui were pleased with his flattery, with Gao Shan smiling faintly and asking, So you have heard about our names? Of course. Two seniors' names resound like thunder across the land. Yang Kai started spewing nonsense while looking completely earnest. Ha 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 ha. Gao Shan and Lu Shui looked at each other and laughed out loud. Everyone else who was listening couldn't help glaring at Yang Kai with utter contempt for his flagrant bootlicking. At the same time, they also secretly despised the two old fools, Gao Shan and Lu Shui. These two had lived for so many years yet only possessed third-order Dao source realm cultivations and could be so easily won over with a little sweet talk from a mere brat. How could these two old fools possibly be the two protectors of Flying St. Palace? It seemed that everyone was meeting Gao Shan and Lu Shui for the first time though, so they kept looking at each other with exasperated faces. But Yang Kai's face suddenly turned solemn, about to say something but stopping just short. But what? Gao Shan frowned, curiously looking at Yang Kai. Yang Kai forced a smile and replied, But it seems that some here do not respect two seniors. Before two seniors came here, this junior happened to hear some unflattering remarks about you. What? Who dares disrespect us old masters? Gao Shan was infuriated and swept his cold eyes across the crowd. When those cultivators met eyes with Gao Shan and Li Shui, they flinched and looked away. Although these two old men were indeed a bit foolish, there was no doubt about them being strong. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to seize the city lord's mansion. Therefore, the other sex could only seek out other families to stay at as they were afraid of the strength of these two old men and dared not to compete with them for the city lord's mansion. Was it you? Gao Shan suddenly stared furiously at a shifty-eyed middle-aged man and yelled. No, no, no. That middle-aged man quickly waved his hands and explained with cold sweat on his forehead. This one arrived after you too. How could it have been me? And Gao Shan did not suspect him. Then he turned to another person. Then what about you? There is no such thing. This humble one has long admired two seniors. Why would I utter any words of disrespect? The man singled out answered seriously. Who was it then? Speak now so this old master can teach them some proper manners. Lu Shui was mad too and asked Yang Kai with a glare. Yang Kai stuttered slightly as he hesitated. This junior doesn't dare to say. This junior is weak and afraid of being killed after speaking. Say it, don't be afraid. Who has the courage to touch you when you have these two old masters here to protect you? Whoever dares to hurt you, these old masters will slaughter his entire family. Gao Shan ensured Yang Kai's safety and puffed up with pride. With the words of senior, I can feel relieved. Yang Kai acted thrilled and swiftly pointed with his finger and shouted, It was him! It was this boy. Before two seniors came, he boasted that Gao Shan and Lu Shui, who were supposed to be the strongest in Maplewood City right now, were just some ants in his eyes and he could easily crush them with just his finger. He also said Flying St. Palace was nothing but a gathering of trash that shelters evildoers, and that all the cultivators in it were not born from their fathers and mothers, but from what? Gao Shan was completely incensed and his clothes began flapping despite there being no wind. It's better for this junior to not say it. It's too humiliating, Yang Kai said in a depressed tone. Why you? Gao Shan was boiling mad and burst out in anger. Good! 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 Lu Shui also glared at the person pointed out by Yang Kai and sneered, "Young man, you seem to have a foul mouth. Why don't you show me how you plan on crushing these two old masters with just one finger?" Luo Yuan frowned and looked at Yang Kai. "You're pointing at me?" Yang Kai yelled, "Luo Yuan, be a man. Do you want to deny your own words? Masters Gao Shan and Lu Shui are present now. I dare you to say what you just said again. Let's just see if these two old masters beat you to death." I understand." Luo Yuan lightly nodded. Surprisingly, he made no attempt to explain himself. Seeing him not deny the charge, Gao Shan and Lu Shui started to believe Yang Kai more and more. Gao Shan reprimanded, "Boy, you've only earned a bit of fame yet you already think you're invincible? You need to be taught that there is always someone better than you and have your attitude corrected. For your own sake. Why bother speaking any nonsense with him? He must suffer death for insulting both of us." Lu Shui snorted coldly as he looked scornfully at Luo Yen. "Little brat, will you surrender yourself to be executed? Or do you prefer we old masters come take your head? Let me say this first, if it's the former you will suffer less, but if it's the latter, heh, you'll beg for death before we're done." Listening to Lu Shui's words, Yang Kai was feeling on top of the world for successfully roping Luo Yuan into this mess. As he expected, a person as arrogant as Luo Yuan would not sit there doing anything after being threatened. Forget about the fact that he hadn't said anything insulting about these two old men. Even if he did, he would still not have compromised at this moment. Raising his eyes, Luo Yuan revealed a wild and intractable face as he pushed his source chi and grinned. "Two old dogs want to take my life? Do you have the ability? You're only one step away from your grave, yet you're still speaking boastfully. Take this, boy." Gao Shan finally lost his temper completely and palmed towards Luo Yuan. In an instant, the clouds up in the sky began to swirl as the flow of the surrounding principles began to change and condense into a gigantic palm print that smashed down from above and enveloped Luo Yuan. The faces of all the cultivators present turned pale. Given that Gao Shan was a protector of Flying Saint Palace and had a solid cultivation at the Third Order Dao Source Realm, his strike was exceptional. Everyone was thinking of a way of defending or evading the attack that could possibly come in their way. Their faces turned ugly as they kept thinking about it as they realized that they could only dodge this attack while counterattacking would only result in their defeat. However, Luo Yuan remained standing where he was without any thoughts of evading, as if he were paralyzed in place. The round-faced woman who was standing behind him, too, stood frozen. Her beautiful eyes fixed on Luo Yuan's heroic back, not even the noises of the crowd entering her ears. Hong Long Long, the gigantic palm print which was formed from a combination of source chi and principles slammed down, causing space around Luo Yuan to shake and wicked winds to be kicked up. Even the threads of divine senses which were monitoring the situation were being swallowed up in this massive current, making it impossible for others to see what was happening inside. Several houses in the Qin residence were also flattened by this explosion and turned into ruins. Humph! This is the result of trash acting arrogant in front of this old master. After Gao Shan's move hit its mark, he snorted loudly as he folded his arm behind his back, assuming a victory pose. It was just a young man who had only cultivated for a few years and thought he could stand against these old masters. Such wanton overconfidence. Lu Shui sneered. "Is that it?" The voice of Luo Yuan suddenly came out from the center of the chaotic swirl of energy, followed by a burst of radiance that scattered the halo of light in the next instant. Luo Yuan reappeared in front of everyone, a layer of source chi covering his body that was so dazzling it almost blinded Gao Shan and Lu Shui. Not only was Luo Yuan unharmed, but even the round-faced woman who had been standing behind him was not affected at all. However, after being attacked like this, the round-faced woman seemed quite annoyed and she frowned deeply towards Gao Shan and Lu Shui. This. Gao Shan could not help taking a few steps back, looking at Luo Yuan like he had seen a ghost, unable to believe what he saw. "How can this be?" Lu Shui exclaimed in shock. He was clear just how powerful Gao Shan's move was. So even if Luo Yuan was a third-order Dao Source Realm cultivator as well, It should have been impossible to take it directly unscathed. But the truth was shown in front of his eyes and he was stupefied by it. I was still worrying that I couldn't find a good opponent. Luo Yuan grinned fiercely, his expression causing all who saw it to shudder. Since you old dogs have come to me, I have no need to hold back. He licked his lips while speaking, as if he suddenly saw a delicious dish after starving for a long time. His look nearly frightened Gao Shan and Lu Shui to death. As soon as he finished speaking, Luo Yuan gradually raised his hand and a vigorous source qi started pulsing from his body, making a strange noise like waves crashing against rock. Stop! A gentle voice interfered at the crucial moment. Luo Yuan frowned and turned to the direction of the sound. Realizing it was from Qinyu, he asked with a cold face, "What is it now?" Previously he was interrupted by Qinyu when he was about to act against Yang Kai, and now when he was about to fight Gao Shan and Lu Shui, Qinyu interrupted him again. If it weren't for the fact that she was the host here where he was staying, Luo Yuan would not have paid any attention to her. "What do you want to do?" Qinyu looked coldly at Luo Yuan and questioned with her teeth gritted. "Isn't it obvious?" Luo Yuan answered, "Can't you tell what I was about to do?" "I can." Qinyu did not fear Luo Yuan despite the differences in their strength, and she continued to glare at him with her beautiful eyes. "It is exactly because I can tell that I have no choice but to stop you." "What do you mean?" "Speak clearly." Luo Yuan scowled. "Do you intend to destroy my Qin residence?" Qinyu asked. "No, I don't." Luo Yuan replied seriously. "Then do it somewhere else." Qinyu snorted. "If all of you don't want to sleep on the street tonight, find another place to fight." Luo Yuan pondered for a moment before nodding. "Makes sense." The disciples of Eight Paths sect were staying in the Qin residence. So if the Qin residence was really leveled, everyone from Eight Paths sect would have nowhere to stay and their reputation would plummet for numerous reasons. Looking up at Gao Shan and Lu Shui, Luo Yuan shouted, "Two old dogs, follow me." After that, his figure flickered and he rushed out of the city. When he left, he flew right over Gao Shan and Lu Shui's heads. A naked provocation. Gao Shan and Lu Shui could never tolerate a junior acting so haughty before them, so they immediately turned to give chase. In the blink of an eye, 3 third-order Dao Source Realm Masters disappeared from everyone's vision. AI? The round-faced woman who had stood behind Luo Yuan all this time unexpectedly sighed and looked sorrowful. From beginning to end, Luo Yuan had never turned his eyes to her or paid any attention to her at all, making her feel quite sad. Gritting her teeth, she turned to glare at Yang Kai and blamed him. "It's all your fault. Why are you blaming me?" Yang Kai grinned. "If not for your deceitful lies, senior brother Luo would not have left." The round-faced woman pouted, revealing a cute and playful face. "Nonsense. In fact, you should be thanking me." Yang Kai smiled. "Why should I?" The round-faced woman stared at Yang Kai from the corner of her eyes and mocked. "I don't see a reason for me to thank you." Yang Kai answered with full confidence. "Of course there is. If I did not create troubles, you wouldn't have been able to see your senior brother Luo's care for you." "Senior brother Luo's care for me?" The round-faced woman raised her brow and her pretty face blushed before she stomped her foot angrily. "Don't be ridiculous. Senior brother Luo only cares. He only cares about pursuing the martial Dao. He would never care about me." After a pause, she asked again with hope, "Can you tell me? How did senior brother Luo show he cared about me?" Before Yang Kai could answer, Qinyu interjected with a faint smile. "Young lady, I'm afraid you were blinded by the situation because you were too close to it. When Protector Gao Shan struck just now, were you injured in the slightest?" "No." The round-faced woman shook her head. "Then who was it who protected you?" Qinyu questioned again. Realization dawned on the round-faced woman and her beautiful eyes lit up as her originally sorrowful expression turned energetic, as if she had been gifted some precious treasure, causing her to smile brightly. Qinyu continued, "If your senior brother Luo didn't care about you, you would be seriously wounded now. He just did it out of convenience. He did not care about me." The round-faced woman lowered her head, blushing and anxious. Even though she denied it with her words, her demure face had betrayed her thoughts as she looked like she was drunk on honey. However, aren't you worried about your senior brother Luo? Although Gao Shan and Lu Shui have some problems up here, they are still not easy to handle. Yang Kai smiled while tapping on his own head. The round-faced woman replied, "There's nothing to be worried about. Those two men would definitely be crying for their mothers soon enough." She had absolute confidence in Luo Yuan. At this point, she turned her gaze at Yang Kai and asked with a smile, "You still have time to talk about all these things? Better worry about yourself first." "What should I be worried about?" Yang Kai sneered and looked around. "It's just a gathering of trash." "What did you say?" "Little brat, you're too full of yourself. I have to teach you a harsh life lesson. Whose family did this boy come from? What a foul mouth he has. Haven't your parents taught you any manners?" His surrounding cultivators started to yell at him. The three strongest cultivators had left them, so the remaining people naturally had no more concerns, all of them staring covetously at the myriad sword in Yang Kai's hand as they plotted and schemed to acquire it. "Heh. An elderly man suddenly laughed as he looked down at Yang Kai kindly. "Little brother, where did you get your sword from? You mean this?" Yang Kai swung the myriad sword across his chest and pointed it, releasing a sword light from its blade as he smiled and said, "I picked it up on the road." "Then it must be the one that this old master lost a few days ago. No wonder it looked so familiar." "Little brother, please return it to me," the elderly man continued hurriedly. The group of cultivators around looked at the elderly man dumbfounded, thinking to themselves, "This is too shameless. Even if you wanted to rob treasures, you should find a better excuse. The excuse that you just gave was so ridiculous. Even fools won't fall for it. I was the one who picked it up, so it's mine now. Why should I give it to you?" Yang Kai's face darkened as he stored the myriad sword directly back into his body. Seeing this scene, the elderly man gulped and asked eagerly, "Little brother, as long as you are willing to give this old master his sword back, this old master will guarantee you prosperity and wealth for the rest of your life. You may not know, but this old master is the evil Moon Valley's Vice Valley Master, Chu Huairen, and he is always faithful to his word." Yang Kai stared at him and said, "I don't believe you. If you don't believe me, you can ask them. They can testify for this old master." The elderly man pointed at his surrounding cultivators anxiously. All the cultivators around sneered when they heard it, and put on a face of "this is none of my business." "See, they don't believe you either," Yang Kai derided. "You must be trying to cheat me out of my treasure." Chu Huairen's eyes flashed a fierce light as he snorted coldly. "Fine. You forced this old master to get rough with you. Don't blame this old master for acting ruthless now." Saying so, he moved in a flash with a ruthless look, like a great pung swooping down from above as he charged towards Yang Kai with his one hand stretching into a claw. What do you want to do?" Yang Kai looked flustered and kept stepping back. "Heh. Little brat, if you want to blame someone, blame yourself for having such bad luck. You were just digging your own grave showing off your treasure with just a trivial first-order Dao Source Realm cultivation. In your next life, if you're lucky enough to be reborn as a human, remember this: an ordinary man is innocent, but his treasures make him guilty." Chu Huairen spoke earnestly, but he did not slow his movements, pressing towards Yang Kai while releasing undisguised killing intent. I'll fight you," Yang Kai shouted fiercely, releasing a roar that reverberated like thunder, causing the ears of those present to ring. Initially, when the cultivators around saw the elderly man making a move, their expression changed and some of them even pushed their own source chi, seemingly planning to join the fray. However, everyone could not help but be stunned at Yang Kai's roar. A brilliance flashed across the ground where Yang Kai stood on, and the myriad sword emperor artifact was summoned out by him again. At that moment, he waved his sword around frantically, as if frightened silly by Chu Huairen's attack and unable to release his strength properly. "Give it to me." Chu Huairen was overjoyed when he saw the myriad sword and stretched out his arm to snatch it, excitement covering his face, as if he had already seen himself ruling the world with the treasure he just obtained. "Chi, Pooh! 5 severed fingers flew out in the next instant as blood splattered everywhere. Chu Huai-Run was standing not far in front of Yang Kai, frozen on the spot, staring at Yang Kai dumbstruck, as if he had not fully recovered from his shock. He could only feel a coolness on his hand and chest, as well as a sharp, rising pain. The next moment, he saw the corner of Yang Kai's mouth curve upwards, showing a mocking grin. This grin made him shiver involuntarily as he vaguely felt something was not right. Dida, Dida. The clear sound of blood dripping reached the ears of the crowd, and the stench of it quickly filled the air. Nobody seemed to understand what was going on, but they soon awoke from their daze and were shocked by the scene when they raised their eyes to Chu Huai-Run. Chu Huai-Ren's body was frozen in place, motionless, while it was still in a pouncing posture, his hand stretched out. However, all 5 fingers of that hand had been cut off smoothly and cleanly, blood spurting from the wounds. What was more shocking, though, was a sword had impaled Chu Huai-Run. Half of the blade pierced through his back, and blood dripped down the sword tip continuously, splashing all over the ground, completely dyeing it red. Gulping, everyone had the same thought run through their minds. What is going on? They only saw Chu Huai-Run rushing toward Yang Kai aggressively, while Yang Kai waved his artifact around frantically. They all assumed that Chu Huai-Run would quickly overpower Yang Kai and snatch away the artifact, but the reality was completely different. From the looks of it, it seemed that Chu Huai-Run had accidentally impaled himself on Yang Kai's sword. The blade seemed to have cut through the main arteries of the heart, leaving no possibility of survival. Some of the cultivators' eyes flickered in realization, and the contempt and disdain they had before disappeared in a flash, replaced with solemnity as they gazed at Yang Kai. Others still looked blank. "You?" Chu Huai-Run said, and before he had a chance to finish the sentence, blood gushed out of his mouth uncontrollably like a fountain. "You just sought death yourself. You can't blame me." Yang Kai snorted before slamming his palm against Chu Huai-Ren's chest, sending him flying. Chu Huai-Ren's vitality quickly dissipated mid-air, and the life left his eyes. He had stopped breathing even before landing onto the ground, dying quite miserably. How could Chu Huai-Ren have known that he, the Vice Valley Master of Evil Moon Valley, would die in a small place like Maplewood City? Chu Huai-Ren would never have thought that he would end like this before he came here. "You killed Vice Valley Master Chu," a middle-aged man suddenly declared, coldly. He seemed to be quite fond of Chu Huai-Ren, so seeing him die in front of him infuriated him and was not about to let it slide. Flicking his wrist, this middle-aged man summoned a golden globe of light into his palm and shouted, "Boy, surrender now and follow me to Evil Moon Valley to confess your crimes. And maybe you can survive, otherwise without a doubt, you will die." As the words fell, the golden light in his hand exploded, transforming into a big golden net directly above Yang Kai, trapping him. He figured that one of the reasons why Chu Huai-Ren died tragically at the hands of Yang Kai was his carelessness, while the other was the formidable artifact in Yang Kai's hands. If that wasn't the case, how could a third-order Dao Source Realm cultivator be defeated in such a short time by Yang Kai's mere first-order Dao Source Realm cultivation? People fumble, horses stumble. Chu Huai-Ren must have been too careless. He was afraid of the razor-sharp myriad sword, and did not plan to fight Yang Kai head-on, instead choosing to use his artifact to restrain Yang Kai first. Dao Source grade energy fluctuations pulsed from the golden net. As soon as it appeared, it seemed to separate everyone inside it from the outside world with an invisible force, forming a unique blockade. Profound gold heaven capturing net. Someone in the crowd instantly recognized the artifact's name, his face changing dramatically. The middle-aged man coldly snorted, then clenched his fists, focusing his attention on controlling the power of his artifact. Yang Kai retreated a few steps, but no matter how much he tried to flee, he could not escape this profound gold heaven capturing net. Suppressed by the invisible force, which surprised him too, Yang Kai secretly felt that this was a mysterious and intriguing artifact. "Little brat, you can't escape. My profound gold heaven capturing net hasn't failed me ever since I refined it. Give up." The middle-aged man sneered and flipped his hand, shrinking the big golden net around Yang Kai and then condensing it into a sphere of golden light, completely sealing him inside. Ha 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 ha! The middle-aged man laughed gleefully at this success. But soon, his smile froze and his eyes widened. How is that possible? Xianxia, who was supposed to be bound by the profound gold heaven capturing net, slowly faded and vanished completely. It was just an afterimage. Oh, that was dangerous. Xianxia's voice suddenly came from the side. The middle-aged man fixed his eyes on the direction of the voice and saw Xianxia wiping the cold sweat on his forehead, still in a state of shock. Brat, you? The middle-aged man's face changed slightly as he gawked at Xianxia, wondering how he escaped the capturing power of his artifact without him noticing. Not bad at all, this is a good artifact. I want it, Xianxia said, reaching out and grabbing at the golden light. Ah! The middle-aged man was startled as he saw Xianxia grab towards his artifact. Pushing his source chi madly, the man formed a series of seals with his hands. The golden sphere buzzed and vibrated as it tried to escape Xianxia's grasp, violently shaking and causing his hand to ache. This was an artifact that was painstakingly refined and shared a soul connection with the middle-aged man, so it was only normal it would show resistance when a stranger tried to seize it. Perceiving the resistance of this artifact, Xianxia's eyes flashed sharply, raised his head, and shouted to the middle-aged man, "Look here!" What? The middle-aged man was trying to wrest his artifact out of Xianxia's control and was taken aback when he heard this shout and unconsciously looked up. The next moment, a chill filled his heart, causing him to shudder. A stream of pure spiritual energy rushed towards him at that moment, its power swift and sharp, like a sword that was thoroughly refined over and over again. Instantly, the middle-aged man's soul defenses were cut through and a slash impacted his knowledge sea, raising violent wind and waves. Ah! His face turned pale immediately and he clutched his head, screaming in agony. Everyone moved away from the middle-aged man in shock. His soul, spiraling out of control upon receiving the assault from Xianxia, made the middle-aged man lose control of his profound gold heaven capturing net. Xianxia pushed his source chi hard at that moment and directly suppressed the resisting artifact. Then, he violently poured his spiritual energy into the artifact, wiping away the middle-aged man's soul imprint. Finished, Xianxia tossed the golden net into his space ring. This artifact was successfully stolen away by Xianxia. Everyone was dumbstruck and finally realized that something was not right. Seizing another's artifact was not something an ordinary person could do. Unless there was a massive difference in their soul cultivations, the soul imprint of the original owner could not be erased in such a short period of time. But Xianxia accomplished just that. In other words, given that he could erase the soul imprint of the middle-aged man in an instant, it meant his soul was far stronger than that of the middle-aged man. Everyone drew a sharp, cold breath. You were pretending to be weak, someone bellowed, finally recognizing Xianxia's act, a look of fear covering his face. Even if Chu Huairen's death was a result of carelessness, accidentally impaling himself on Xianxia's sword, what happened to the middle-aged man could not be excused as an accident. This was definitely a crushing defeat based on strength, which could not be explained by luck. The middle-aged man rolled around the ground, clutching his head, seeming to be gravely injured. It was uncertain if he could ever recover, but even if he could, a wound on one's soul would take a huge amount of time and energy to repair, assuming he didn't go insane first. Who else has a decent artifact? Let me have a look. Xianxia looked around, smiling coldly. Everyone took a few steps back, with dark expressions on their faces. These people originally thought of stealing Xianxia's artifact, but they never expected just the opposite would occur. It seemed like now that the boy had tasted the sweetness, he was wanting more. No, my artifact is only of origin king grade. Little brother will definitely not be interested, someone explained sternly. Origin king grade is already quite good, my artifact is only an origin returning grade. Another person immediately continued. Everyone looked at him with contempt. The man retorted, "What's wrong? Can't I be poor? Is it that embarrassing for a Dao Source Realm cultivator to use an origin returning grade artifact? Why are you looking at me like that?" As he spoke, He turned to Yang Kai, smiled, and cupped his fists. Little brother should have no interest in an origin-returning grade artifact. Yes? Ah, that's right. This little one just remembered that he has an important affair to attend to. Farewell. With these words, without waiting for Yang Kai's response, he fled. The others secretly cursed him for being quick-footed and seizing this opportunity. Many others hurriedly bid goodbye to Yang Kai with cupped fists and left hastily. Wait! Yang Kai suddenly snorted coldly. Everyone turned around in shock and looked at Yang Kai vigilantly, lest he do something unfavorable to them. You can't just come and go as you please. Life is not that easy. Yang Kai snorted coldly. Everyone gulped, their faces ugly, knowing something bad was about to happen. They were really afraid of what this little brat was going to do. Yang Kai pointed to the ground. Take away this corpse and the guy who sounds like a slaughtered pig. Ah. Yes, yes, yes. Hurry up and help. The crowd yelled and dragged away Chu Huai Ren's body and the middle-aged man who was still screaming, all of them swiftly disappearing. And with that, the 30 or so Dao Source Realm cultivators who came after being alarmed by Yang Kai's Emperor artifact left the Qin residence in a flurry, except for one who was still hovering mid-air. Yang Kai looked at that person with his eyes squinted and found that it was a well-dressed young woman with a graceful figure and fair complexion. Her hair was flowing down her back like a waterfall and she was wearing a turquoise dress. Her beautiful eyes shone brightly, and although she kept a distance from Yang Kai, fear could not be seen in her eyes. The cultivation of this young woman was not high, but not low either, second-order Dao Source Realm. It seemed she was from some second-class sect or big family. Why didn't you leave? Yang Kai turned solemn when he noticed that she was not leaving. The young woman replied after hearing it. Little brother, may I ask if you are Grandmaster Yang? Yang Kai frowned and started to secretly raise his guard, asking instead of answering, Who are you? The young woman hurriedly introduced herself. This mistress is Thousand Leaves Sect. Yi Jinghan. Thousand Leaves Sect? Yang Kai narrowed his eyes. He vaguely had some impression about this sect, but nothing deep. However, he was certain that it was not some big sect, probably similar to Blue Feather Sect, which did not have an Emperor Realm Master commanding it. Across the entire Southern Territory, there were numerous sects like this, each claiming some territories in order to live and multiply. Perhaps some of their ancestors had achieved some glorious accomplishments, but afterwards they suffered from a decline over the generations. Blue Feather Sect was one such sect. The ancestors of Blue Feather Sect's sect master Wu Mengshan was a peak-level figure in the star boundary in the past, heaven-devouring great emperor. This was a man able to cover the heavens with only one hand, so powerful that the wind and the clouds were under his command. But in this generation, Wu Mengshan was just a sect master of a small sect and possessed only a third-order Dao Source Realm cultivation. In this world, no sect endured forever, no family that would not decline and die out. Only Star Soul Palace and some of the greatest sects could maintain their prominence for 10,000 years or more. Are you really Grandmaster Yang? Yi Jinghan asked eagerly. You've got the wrong person, Yang Kai replied without hesitation. A few people from the Qin family and the Eight Paths sect disciples could not help staring at him weirdly when he made this response. You're right. He is Grandmaster Yang Kai. The round-faced woman who was infatuated with Luo Yuan suddenly shouted happily. After she spoke, she turned a grin to Yang Kai. Yang Kai immediately gave her a fierce glance. So, you really are Grandmaster Yang? Yi Jinghan could not help feeling a little thrilled after confirming Yang Kai's identity. I already said you've got the wrong person. There are many people with the same name in this world, so please hurry up and leave, otherwise, I may be rude to you. Yang Kai swung his hands impatiently, like he was trying to drive away a fly. Yi Jinghan bit her lip lightly as she looked at Yang Kai pitifully. Grandmaster Yang, can you please just listen to a few words from this mistress? This mistress will leave after speaking. No thanks. You! The round-faced woman seemed to be unable to stand it anymore and rebuked. She is already begging you like this, so why can't you just listen to her speak? Don't you know anything about being caring and considerate towards women? Yang Kai glared at her. No, I don't. Also, everyone came here just to steal my treasure. so why should I bother indulging her? If this happened to your Luo Yuan, what would you do? What do you mean my Luo Yuan? The round-faced woman's face blushed and started to be restless again. But after a while, she returned to her cold face and snorted coldly. If anyone dared to touch senior brother Luo, I'd kill them. She put on a murderous face that shocked Yang Kai greatly, as he didn't imagine she had such a vicious side to her. Patriarch Qin, send this guest off. Yang Kai spoke to Qin Zhaoyang, then waved to Qin Yu. Sister Qin, follow me. N. Qin Yu hurriedly moved towards Yang Kai. To the side, Qin Zhaoyang pondered for a moment before he flew up into the air and started talking to Yi Jinghan. It seemed that he was trying to convince Yi Jinghan to leave, but she kept refusing and begging. Oh right. Yang Kai turned around when he was about to leave and sneered at the disciples of Eight Paths sect. Behave yourselves. If any of you dare to cross the line again, I'll make sure you answer to me. The few disciples of Eight Paths sect had cold sweat beading on their foreheads when they heard this, and none dared to ignore Yang Kai's order, nodding one after another. After they clearly saw how Yang Kai slew Chu Huairen and robbed the middle-aged man's artifact just now, they understood that they were no match for him, and if they did provoke him, they would not end well. The round-faced woman smiled. Relax. I will look after them to make sure they don't cause a fuss. That would be best, otherwise, don't blame me for not giving Luo Yuan any face. Yang Kai snorted lightly, turned, and left. Yang Kai led Qin Yu all the way to a secret room where he had her take a seat. Qin Zhaoyang rushed in hurriedly a moment later, seemingly having settled the matter with Yi Jianghan. He gazed at Yang Kai hopefully and asked restlessly, Little brother Yang, about the trip to the Four Seasons realm. Did you get it? Ever since Yang Kai returned, he did not have the time to ask about the matter of the tribulation fruit. Now that he was finally free, it was natural that Qin Zhaoyang couldn't wait to know the result. Qin Yu's tender body also could not help trembling as her breathing became a bit hurried, seemingly unable to control her emotions. After all, this was a matter of life or death to her. How could a young girl, who was still not 18, who had not fully seen the beauty of the world or experienced its various wonders, meekly accept death? Yang Kai glanced at both of them and smiled faintly. Fortunately, I have not failed my mission. While speaking, he took out a jade box from his space ring and opened it with a flick, showing an ice-carved jade-like spirit fruit that immediately attracted their eyes. Qin Zhaoyang observed it attentively with his eyes wide open, while Qin Yu could not help but stretch her fair neck and look at it dumbfounded. It is. It's the tribulation fruit. Qin Zhaoyang burst into laughter after observing it for a while, tears of joy flowing down from his eyes. That senior once showed me a projected image of this spirit fruit, and it matches perfectly. Qin Yu immediately covered her lips with her hands after hearing this, a weight finally lifting from her shoulders, her whole body going limp with relief. There were a lot of twists and turns in obtaining this spirit fruit. That's why I couldn't come back immediately. I'm sorry to have made you wait so long, Yang Kai explained briefly. Qin Zhaoyang said through his tears, Don't worry. This time, thanks to little brother Yang, Yuer has hope to survive. By the way, Patriarch Qin, did that master back then say anything about how this should be consumed by Sister Qin? Does it need to be refined into a pill? If so, I can help with that, Yang Kai asked solemnly. There is no need to refine it. Qin Zhaoyang shook his head. That senior said we only need to find the tribulation fruit and let Yuer eat it directly. Her world tribulation body is rejected by the heavens and earth, causing her vitality to be cut off. So the tribulation fruit will act as a medicine that could act as a formless bridge in order to reconnect her broken vitality and ultimately keep Yuer from suffering from her physique in the future. Then, let's not delay this matter. Let Sister Qin eat it immediately. Yang Kai hurriedly passed the jade box to Qin Yu. Qin Yu received the tribulation fruit from Yang Kai, gazed at it, then lifted her head again to look at Yang Kai and Qin Zhaoyang. Seeing their encouraging faces, she did not hesitate anymore. Stretching out her beautiful and delicate fingers, she took out the tribulation fruit from the jade box, put it into her mouth and chewed it slowly. The spirit fruit was ingested into her stomach just like that. Qin Zhaoyang looked at Qin Yu anxiously and asked worriedly, do you feel any discomfort? Qin Yu shook her head. No, I just feel a bit cold. Just after she spoke, her face abruptly changed. Her pretty face was almost twisted as she seemed to be suffering from tremendous pain, but at the same time, an extremely extraordinary power began to emerge from her body, forming a layer of bright and transparent white light, enveloping her entirely. Yang Kai's expression changed slightly. He used his divine sense and saw that the original condensed black qi around Qin Yu's body was slowly dissipating into the bright light. Qin Yu's expression gradually eased as the black qi slowly disappeared, and a trace of vitality was born from her tender body, diffusing over her limbs. Witnessing this scene, Yang Kai nodded lightly as he knew that this should be the right solution and Qin Yu would definitely be cured with this. Little brother Yang, this. Qin Zhaoyang was in a state of utter stupefaction. Yang Kai smiled faintly. Patriarch Qin, let's go out first. Sister Qin should be fine here. She will just need some time. Are you sure, little brother Yang? Qin Zhaoyang was worried, but he realized he should not question him, so he hurriedly explained. It's not that this Qin doesn't believe in you. It's just, I understand. Yang Kai smiled. Patriarch Qin, excessive worrying would cause panic. Just scan Qin Yu's body with your divine sense. Qin Zhaoyang immediately acted as he said, and after a while he sighed in relief. So now, can we leave without worry? Yang Kai slightly smiled. Qin Zhaoyang was a little embarrassed by his teasing and replied awkwardly, Yuer has had a difficult life since her childhood. Her parents passed away in her early years, leaving her the only remaining bloodline of our Qin family, and she stuck with this old master through the difficulties for more than 10 years. If she also... I understand. Yang Kai nodded solemnly. Both of them left the secret room while talking. With a flick of his wrist, Yang Kai drew out the myriad sword and handed it to Qin Zhaoyang with both hands. Patriarch Qin, I am returning this sword to the Qin family. Please accept it. Qin Zhaoyang gazed calmly at the myriad sword, after a long time reaching out to gently brush its blade as he said, The myriad sword is the legacy of my Qin family's ancestors, and also the treasure of my Qin family. For thousands of years, our ancestors had taken regaining the family's prestige as their responsibility, with their first goal being gaining enough strength to wield the myriad sword once more. However, there were only a few of them who had managed to achieve this, and by the time it was this old master's generation, he sighed heavily and continued. The sword has been covered in dust for centuries now, not seeing the sun nor the sky. If my ancestors in heaven knew of this, I'm sure they would put all the blame on me. Yang Kai responded. Sister Qin has an extraordinary talent as she has already reached the origin returning realm at only 18. After being set free from her suffering this time, she will definitely stand out as a rising star in time. Qin Zhaoyang smiled faintly. This old master has pinned all his hopes on Yuer, so this old master would like to ask little brother Yang to keep this sword first. And Yang Kai raised his brow. Qin Zhaoyang continued. The power of this sword can only be unleashed in your hands. Little brother Yang, you can make use of it first until one day, when Yuer enters the Emperor realm, then you shall return it to her. Is it acceptable? Qin Zhaoyang was acting like an old man who would die soon and was arranging his own funeral affairs. A shimmer of light flashed in Yang Kai's eyes as he realized that Qin Zhaoyang was taking precautionary measures. Although Qin Zhaoyang was not young anymore, he was still a Dao Source Realm cultivator. So there was no worries about him living a few more decades without any accidents. However, his cultivation was not remarkably high, and the path of cultivation was always filled with thorns, so no one could guarantee they would have a peaceful death or predict what kind of disasters or crises would befall them. If such a day came, no one would be left to protect the Qin family anymore. Qin Zhaoyang wanted Yang Kai to keep the myriad sword for a few reasons. First, an ordinary man is innocent but his treasures made him guilty, so he was worried that the myriad sword would draw trouble to the Qin family. Second, he probably wanted to use this as a bridge, in order to bring Yang Kai closer to the Qin family. As long as the myriad sword was still in Yang Kai's hands, He would definitely not sit back and watch if the Qin family ever suffered any tribulations and, if worse came to worst, there would still be someone to take care of Qin Yu. Yang Kai already guessed the intentions of Qin Zhaoyang with just a quick thought, but after pondering for a while, he decided not to refuse and replied, "Since Patriarch Qin trusts this Yang so much, I shall make use of this sword for some time in a way that will not damage the prestige of the Qin family's ancestors." He was familiar with the use of the myriad sword now and had already comprehended the few sword Dao secret techniques that could only be used properly with this treasure. So Yang Kai had no objections to keeping it since it could still come in handy. Very good, very good. Qin Zhaoyang was overjoyed. Hong long long. At that moment, a muffled sound of thunder was heard, like the stampede of thousands of dragon horses, shaking the heavens and earth for a moment. At the same time, the surrounding world energy shook violently. What happened? Qin Zhaoyang turned his face and asked in shock. Yang Kai's eyes also flashed brightly, and he instantly released his majestic divine sense to scan the surroundings. Soon, he looked in a particular direction outside of the city and muttered, "The source seems to be over there. It's as if something extremely powerful has awakened. Let's investigate." Qin Zhaoyang shouted after listening to his words. Yang Kai was thinking the same and quickly executed his movement skill to fly off. Just after flying out of the Qin residence, they ran into a beautiful figure who was standing quietly mid-air. It was Yi Jinghan from Thousand Leaves sect. The young woman seemed to have not left and kept waiting outside the Qin residence. After she saw Yang Kai's figure, her beautiful eyes lit up and she called out to him, "Grandmaster Yang! Grandmaster Yang! Go away, go away! Don't block the way!" Yang Kai waved his hand impatiently and flew past her so fast that he was just a black dot in the sky in the blink of an eye. Yi Jinghan looked at his shadow with gritted teeth, stomping her foot before hurriedly chasing after him. Patriarch Qin, Yang Kai, who was flying in front, glanced back at Yi Jinghan and whispered, "Did this woman tell you why she was looking for me?" Qin Zhaoyang grinned and answered, "Little brother Yang is famous, handsome, and in possession of a good cultivation, the very definition of an outstanding man. So isn't it normal that young girls would be attracted to you?" After listening to Qin Zhaoyang's flattery, Yang Kai brushed his hair back, straightened his chest, and slightly lifted his head. A moment later, his face sank as he spat. "Can we be serious here?" Qin Zhaoyang shook his head. "She didn't tell this old master clearly. She just said that she needed to talk to you. I saw that this woman was quite pretty, and even though she is a little older than you, she has a tender body and mesmerizing eyes. Little brother Yang, why don't you consider listening to her request?" Yang Kai bulged his eyes and scanned Qin Zhaoyang up and down, as if he needed to examine this person again. After a long examination, he replied, "Patriarch Qin, please behave yourself. It's inappropriate for an old man to say something like this." "Ha ha ha ha." Qin Zhaoyang laughed out loud, patted Yang Kai on the shoulder and spoke in earnest. "You are wasting your youth if you are not indulging. Young man, seize the opportunity. Anyway, I don't think it's anything good. Don't pay attention to her." Yang Kai curled his lips. During their conversation, numerous other flowing lights had appeared around them. Apparently, they were the Dao Source Realm Masters who were living in Maplewood City, and similar to Yang Kai and Qin Zhaoyang, they were also on their way to check the situation. "Ah, Yang Kai, you bastard!" An angry voice suddenly came from the side. Yang Kai turned his head and saw a familiar face staring at him furiously. This person was the former Maplewood City Vice City Lord, Zhuang Pan. There was another person beside Zhuang Pan, a good-looking young man with red lips and white teeth. His cultivation was not high, just first-order Dao Source Realm. Inexplicably, Yang Kai suddenly felt that this person was a bit familiar, but he was certain that he had never seen him before. Yang Kai. After hearing Zhuang Pan, the eyes of the young man beside him brightened, looking towards Yang Kai with a scorching gaze and asking Zhuang Pan, "So, he is the brat surnamed Yang you mentioned?" "It's him, that little rat." Zhuang Pan gritted his teeth. "Who are you calling a rat?" Yang Kai looked at Zhuang Pan in contempt and smiled sarcastically. Zhuang Pan's face turned red, But he was not stupid enough to step into Yang Kai's trap, instead just glaring at him with hatred. Patriarch Qin, who is this young man? Yang Kai whispered to Qin Zhaoyang. He saw that although this young man was handsome, he looked sinister. If one were to consider that he was shoulder to shoulder with a villain like Zhuangpan, Yang Kai knew for sure that he was not anything decent. Flying St. Palace's young palace master, Ning Yuanshu. Young palace master? Yang Kai was shocked, but he quickly figured it out. It seemed that after the death of the former Flying St. Palace young palace master, someone new had been promoted to take up the position. Since Ning Yuanshu and Ning Yuanchang were biological brothers, it was natural that they looked similar to each other, so it was no wonder Yang Kai found him to be familiar just now. When they were speaking, Ning Yuanshu ordered Zhuangpan. Since it's him, then there's no need to be polite. Zhuangpan, seize him. This young master wants to interrogate him. After receiving the command, Zhuangpan turned his head pitifully and said with a frightened stutter, "Young palace master, that is... What? Do it quickly. Do you dare disobey my commands?" Ning Yuanshu got frustrated looking at him and slapped his face, causing Zhuangpan's neck to shrink in fear. "This subordinate can't beat him," Zhuangpan answered with a look of grief. After saying it, he was like a deflated ball. Ning Yuanshu stared at him with his eyes widened. "He is a first-order Dao Source Realm cultivator, the same as you. What's more, Lord Father had trained you personally for 3 days. Why can't you beat him? Last time I was miserably beaten by him until the spirituality of my artifact had been lost." Zhuangpan muttered. "Waste! What use are you then?" Ning Yuanshu was infuriated and kicked Zhuangpan on his waist. Zhuangpan screamed in pain and staggered to the side. Ning Yuanshu ignored Zhuangpan and glared at Yang Kai as he bellowed in a deep voice, "Boy, come over here now." He looked egotistic, as if he was the owner of the world and no one would dare to disobey his command. When the surrounding cultivators heard him, they were startled and immediately put some distance between them and Ning Yuanshu. These cultivators were mostly just coming back from the Qin residence where they had witnessed the earlier scene caused by Yang Kai. All of them knew Yang Kai was not a person who they should mess with. So when they saw Ning Yuanshu plucking at the whiskers of this tiger, who would dare to stay near him? Even for those cultivators who had no idea about this, they were quickly being informed by their friends and were made aware of the current situation. In a heartbeat, all the cultivators in a 100-meter radius of Ning Yuanshu vanished. Ning Yuanshu was bewildered, but thinking everyone was deterred by his imposing presence, his ego only swelled further, making him truly feel like the first master beneath the heavens. Patriarch Qin. Yang Kai made a weird expression and asked, "Why do I hear a dog barking in this wilderness?" Qin Zhaoyang burst into laughter. "Probably just some wild dogs wandering about. Little brother Yang doesn't need to care about it." If before, as the patriarch of a small family, he would not dare to offend Flying St. Palace. Even though Flying St. Palace was not a big sect, there was still an Emperor Realm Master helming it with countless Dao Source Realm cultivators at his command. The Qin family's good days would come to an end if they offended such a great force, as everyone in the Qin family could be easily slaughtered by a single second-order Dao Source Realm Master sent by Flying St. Palace. But right now, he was full of gratitude and respect towards Yang Kai, so he was more than willing to offend Flying St. Palace. Even if it was Star Soul Palace, he would probably still side with Yang Kai. Both of them spoke loudly, not trying to conceal their voices, so Ning Yuanshu naturally heard them and flew into a rage. "How dare you spout such drivel, boy? Do you know who this young master is?" Ning Yuanshu smiled in anger and shouted at Yang Kai with a sinister face. Yang Kai then looked at him from the corner of his eyes. "Who the hell are you?" Ning Yuanshu looked extremely annoyed and fulminated against him. "Listen carefully. This young master is Flying St. Palace's young palace master, Ning Yuanshu." Flying St. Palace young palace master? Yang Kai could not help bulging his eyes in fear. "You are the Flying St. Palace's young palace master?" Indeed. Ning Yuanshu felt instantly satisfied after seeing his frightened appearance and put on a wicked smile like that of a poisonous snake. The next moment, Yang Kai's expression turned solemn and responded in a serious tone. Sorry. Never heard of such a place. You? Ning Yuanshu was maddened again after realizing that Yang Kai was toying with him and shouted loudly, Die! As he shouted, he pushed his source chi, creating a vortex-like power around his figure as it flickered, leaving behind a number of afterimages as he flew in front of Yang Kai and sent out a palm strike. This is your fate for offending me. He did not forget to sneer as he moved in to attack. However, his palm strike was destined to accomplish nothing as Yang Kai simply stretched out his hand, intercepted this palm by seizing Ning Yuanshu's wrist, and diverted it aside. Ning Yuanshu was caught completely off guard and lost his balance, almost crashing into Yang Kai in the process. When he looked up, his face was only a palm length away from Yang Kai's, the perfect distance to witness the taunting grin filled with mockery on his opponent's face.